Chapter 2597, What is Feng Wu's placing? 2. Chapter 2597, What is Feng Wu's placing? 2. However, by the time they reached the 400th name, they still hadn't seen Feng Wu's name. Well, she must be in the 300s then, the students thought. 300th wasn't that different from 400th. However, Feng Wu's name was nowhere to be found in the 300s. Zhao Zhen's mind was blown. It had never occurred to her that Feng Wu could be so capable. Lu Qi was terrified. She murmured, "How is that possible? We only have 300 names left, but we still haven't seen her name." Zhao Zhen and Lu Qi's bet was on 250th place. If Feng Wu was ranked lower than 250th, Lu Qi would win. Otherwise, Zhao Zhen would win the bet. 290, 280, 270. Still nothing. Lu Qi opened her eyes so wide that her eyeballs almost popped out. She couldn't believe it. Feng Wu was just a new student. Could she really be a genius? Gu Xingyuan and Chu Junying weren't all that surprised. They had both seen what Feng Wu could do and believed that she was a level 6 spiritual lord, which would make her one of the best students in Class E. However, Gu Xingyuan believed he was more powerful than Feng Wu and should be the top student. Most of the students in Class E hadn't seen Feng Wu demonstrate her power before, and they were utterly shocked. Lu Qi was as restless as an ant on a hot pan. She pressed her palms together and murmured, "Please let Feng Wu be the 250th. Don't let her go up further." Her friends gave her sympathetic looks. Lu Qi kept her eyes shut when she asked, "Where are we now? Can you see Feng Wu's name?" Her friends didn't answer. Lu Qi's heart sank. She shouted, "Answer me! There are 230 names left, and Feng Wu's hasn't come up yet." Lu Qi couldn't believe her ears. She thought she was going to faint. She had lost the bet. How was that possible? Lu Qi stared at the big screen and started searching the list from the 250th name down. She looked at each name but didn't find Feng Wu's name anywhere. She wouldn't give up and searched 2 more times. As expected, she still didn't get the result she wanted. So many people were looking for Feng Wu's name. It was improbable that they had all missed it. 180th. That's Feng Wu. Lu Qi shouted. She shouted so loudly that her voice cracked. Her friend tugged at her sleeve. "Calm down. That's not Feng Wu. That's Feng Mu." Lu Qi took another look and saw that her friend was right. There were only 180 names left now, but Feng Wu's still hadn't shown up. Lu Qi began to lose hope. Her entire group was crestfallen. After all, they had already lost the bet to Feng Wu's fans. They were only here because they wanted an answer. What would Feng Wu's ranking be? 170, 160, 150. Still no Feng Wu. That's the 100th. Feng Wu is in the top 100. Still no Feng Wu. Feng Wu is definitely in the top 100 now. Feng Wu's fans were thrilled. They had never thought they would get such a pleasant surprise. The anti-fans looked defeated. Chapter 2598, What is Feng Wu's placing? 3. Chapter 2598, What is Feng Wu's placing? 3. The neutral group was curious about how many more surprises Feng Wu could give them. 90, 80, 70. Still no Feng Wu. Still no. Mu Qianqian was watching the big screen as well. Sun Jingyu wanted to roll her eyes. It then occurred to Mu Qianqian. Right, she defeated Mr. L. Sun Jingyu gave her a dirty look. Mu Qianqian immediately stopped talking, but she kept looking from side to side. She looked at the students behind her and was smug when she saw how the others waited curiously for Feng Wu's name to show up. They were already excited now, but it wasn't going to stop any time soon. Feng Wu could kill Mr. Luo with one strike. Mu Qianqian felt so proud to have been on Feng Wu's team. Zhao Zhen grabbed her arm. "Qianqian, look. We only have 50 names left, and we're still waiting for Feng Wu's. Mu Qianqian feigned a calm tone. Only 50? Don't get excited just yet. Wait and see. That was all she would reveal. She then turned her head away, unable to conceal the satisfaction in her eyes. Many people heard what Mu Qianqian said. Both Zhao Zhen and Lu Qi heard her. Their eyes widened in disbelief. Seriously? 50 names to go, and still no Feng Wu. Lu Qi shook her head. No, it couldn't be. 40, 30, 20. Then the names stopped scrolling. No one made a sound because that was the standard procedure. When there were only 20 names left, they didn't come out in groups of 10s. Only one name would pop out at a time now. The more important thing was, we're still waiting for Feng Wu's name. The minds of the neutral group were already blown. Feng Wu's fans were thrilled. The anti-fans began to waver. They had been so confident at first that they could destroy Feng Wu's reputation, but with everything that had happened, they weren't so sure anymore. This world valued power more than anything else, and everyone worshipped the most capable warriors. They didn't dislike Feng Wu because they held a grudge against her. It was mainly because she was considered useless. However, if they believed Feng Wu had been wronged, the guilt could quickly turn them into her fans. A student in the last row quietly moved into the neutral group, where Lu Qi couldn't see. More followed, especially in the back where people couldn't see. Before long, nearly 100 people switched sides and joined the neutral group, while Lu Qi was having too much of a breakdown to notice. The names were shown one by one. 20, 19, 18, all the way to the 10th. Then, the screen paused. OMG! The anti-fans had stopped talking altogether, and it was the neutral group's turn to be shocked. Am I seeing things? Feng Wu is unbelievable. We only have 10 names left. 10. So, she's in the top 10. Hearing the murmurs, Sun Jingyu and Pei Si looked at each other. Neither seemed surprised. Top 10. Maybe that meant a lot to other people. Chapter 2599. What is Feng Wu's placing? 4. Chapter 2599. What is Feng Wu's placing? 4. Feng Wu probably wouldn't blink even if she were first. That was how outstanding she was. The names of the last 10 students appeared on the screen one after another. Fourth was Pei Si. What? The students were astonished when Pei Si's name showed up. How? That was Pei Si. She used to be second on the billboard, but she had dropped 2 places. That meant that Feng Wu was better than her. Sun Jingyu was third. SSSS. Everyone drew in their breath. Sun Jingyu was the class president and had always been the most capable student of Class E. She was third now. That is to say, Feng Wu is one of the top 2 students. She's only been here for a few days, and she's already surpassed last month's best student. Why did they call her useless? Who said that? Fess up now. Many people became Feng Wu's fans immediately after realizing that she outranked Sun Jingyu, who had originally been the class's top student. The naysayers kept moving away from their old group to join the neutral one. 100, 200, 300. There had been 500 of them at first, but there were only 250 left now. The neutral students were gradually joining the fans as well. The number of fans grew to 500. Feng Wu wasn't aware of any of this. She stood there with her hands behind her back, as if none of this concerned her. It didn't. She put all her effort into cultivating and improving her skills. Even standing in the middle of the square with all eyes on her, she could still cultivate in her head. Around her, everyone was busy making bets. Do you think Feng Wu will be first? Not in a million years. We still have Gu Xingyuan. That's right. His team won first place, and he's the best team member this time. Feng Wu can't beat that. Zhao Zhen said, that's because Xiao Wu went to challenge Wang Junwen in Class D and didn't have time to hunt. But many people ignored her. In the end, almost everyone believed that Gu Xingyuan would be first. Gu Xingyuan thought the same. He smiled confidently and waited for his name to come out. He was going to crush Feng Wu. The second last name came out while everyone watched the screen in excitement. Gu Xingyuan. No one could misread that name. The moment he saw his name, Gu Xingyuan felt as if someone had punched him in the head, making him dizzy. Second. He was second. How was that possible? He had been too confident, and couldn't accept the result. Meanwhile, everyone remained perfectly silent. They held their breaths. Just like Gu Xingyuan, they found it hard to believe. Sun Jingyu and Pei Si were about the only people who weren't surprised. Zhao Jin covered her mouth and almost screamed. If Gu Xingyuan is second, that means that the top student is. The answer couldn't be any more obvious. Chapter 2600 Provocation 1. Chapter 2600 Provocation 1. It couldn't be any more obvious. Was it Feng Wu? Was she really going to be first? Although the students were reasonably certain of the answer, there could still be exceptions. All three groups stared at the big screen, along with Sun Jingyu, Pei Si, Zi Ling and Chaoga. Whoosh! The last name appeared on the screen. Feng Wu. It really is Feng Wu. Oh my god! Feng Wu is first. Seriously? Am I seeing things, or has this world gone insane? They didn't want to believe it, but they had to. All eyes were on the girl in the red dress. She already had delicate features and was unbelievably beautiful. Right now, she was standing there as if no worldly matters could affect her. Moreover, she had been proven to be a genius, which only added to her appeal. More people were leaving the anti-fans group. The number of Feng Wu's fans grew again. Lu Qi. Lu Qi's friends tried to warn her. People are leaving. What should we do? Turning around, Lu Qi saw that there were less than 300 people left in her group, and she shouted in utter astonishment, "Everybody should stay where they are. Don't go anywhere." However, her people had lost faith in her and wouldn't listen. Lu Qi shouted, "It has to be a misunderstanding. Feng Wu can't be first. She just can't." Just then, they heard approaching footstep. Everyone looked up involuntarily. It was Wang Junwen. Didn't she almost die a short while ago? How had she recovered so fast? There were 4 other people with her. Lei Bao and Yu Hong were both by her side. The other 2 people were also top students of Class D. They went up on the stage, and Wang Junwen pointed her sword at Feng Wu. "Feng Wu, I'm challenging you." Feng Wu, on the other hand, she was still cultivating and was on her way to becoming a spiritual king. She had completed 10% of the process and was hoping that she could finish another 1% before the test was over. She was busy cultivating when Wang Junwen challenged her. She was too absorbed in her cultivation to hear Wang Junwen. However, many students frowned at Wang Junwen's actions. Sun Jingyu was the first to intervene. "Junwen, you." Wang Junwen silenced her with a dirty look. "Shut up, you traitor." Sun Jingyu was infuriated, but she was intimidated by the people Wang Junwen brought with her, so she didn't say anything else. Wang Junwen then pointed at Pei Si before she could open her mouth. "You better keep your mouth shut too." Needless to say, Pei Si was furious at the public humiliation. Wang Junwen stood on the stage and stared at Feng Wu with a taunting look on her face. She smirked. "What now? You've gained fame by using me, and you're now too afraid to do anything, aren't you? Guess what? You won last time because you ambushed me." Ambush. Lu Qi's eyes lit up. Did Feng Wu defeat Wang Junwen because of an ambush? Chapter 2601 Provocation 2. Chapter 2601 Provocation 2. Lu Qi became confident again and went back to slandering Feng Wu. The neutral group remained neutral. The fans refused to listen to Lu Qi. No matter what Wang Junwen said, they still believed that Feng Wu was a capable cultivator. Therefore, they confronted Wang Junwen. Zhao Jin spoke first. Wang Junwen, this is Class E's territory. Why did you bring so many people here? A challenge? We're in Class E and you're in Class D. One can hardly call that a challenge, don't you think? Aren't you afraid that people will laugh at you? Yu Hong smirked. Feng Wu dared to say that she's better than Wang Junwen, which is a total lie. Why can't we expose her? A lie. Chaoga couldn't take it anymore. Didn't Xiao Wu defeat Wang Junwen? Didn't she kick you away? Was that a lie too? Yu Hong's face flushed in frustration. Yes, both he and Wang Junwen lost. That was why they brought more people to help them this time. Yu Hong smirked. Cut the crap. Just answer me. Are you going to accept the challenge or not? When Feng Wu finished her cultivation, she woke up to find Wang Junwen glaring down at her. She had thick bandages wrapped around her neck. From afar, it almost looked like she was wearing a scarf. Feng Wu frowned. What now? Wang Junwen glared at her. 5 to 5. Do you accept the challenge? Feng Wu asked, What do you mean? Sun Jingyu quickly explained to her. It's a common practice here in the academy. Each side has a team of 5 people, and the members will perform one-on-one battles. She wasn't sure if Feng Wu could follow, so she added, Each team selects a player, and the 2 players will battle. The winner will remain on stage, and the losing team will choose a second player to go up, and so on and so forth. A player only leaves the stage when they lose the battle. The last person left on stage is the winner, and their team wins. Sun Jingyu then lowered her voice. If you ask me, I don't think you should accept the challenge. Feng Wu asked why. Sun Jingyu glanced at the other team and said, That very tall man is Lei Bao. He's 2 meters tall and is ranked quite high on Class D's billboard. I don't think you're his match. There's more. She pointed at the 2 people next to Lei Bao. They're Hua Yen and Hua Su. They're brothers and are both very capable. I wouldn't stand a chance. Then there's Wang Junwen and Yu Hong. You can defeat them, but we can't. She said thoughtfully, You can defeat 2 or 3 of them, but you can't fight all 5. I suggest you turn down the challenge. Wang Junwen smirked when she heard what Sun Jingyu said. What? Are you afraid? Sun Jingyu said, We're from Class E. Normally, we aren't your match. So what if we're afraid of fighting you? Wang Junwen didn't expect Sun Jingyu to be so frank, and was rendered speechless. The other Class E students didn't like the way Sun Jingyu put it. Those people had come to their own territory to insult them. Although she was telling the truth, it didn't make it any less frustrating. Lu Qi was still trying to incite her classmate. If not for Feng Wu, we would never have to go through this. It's all her fault. The number of anti-fans began to increase again. Chapter 2602 Provocation 3. Chapter 2602 Provocation 3. Xiao Wu, don't say yes. Ziling tugged at Feng Wu's sleeve and shook her head. Be patient in one moment of anger, and you'll escape 100 days of sorrow. The other students of Class E were all infuriated, but they tried to talk Feng Wu out of it as well. Forget it. We won't blame you. Just tell them no. There are 5 of them. You can never defeat them all. You'll be killed for nothing. We know you're capable. You're the top student of our class, but you can't beat Class D. Lu Qi and her friends couldn't wait to see Feng Wu's downfall, whereas both the neutral group and Feng Wu's fans tried to persuade her to not accept the challenge. Wang Junwen sneered at Feng Wu. Would she say no? Feng Wu said, Sure. Sure? What was that supposed to mean? Everyone gave her strange looks. Wang Junwen was taken aback as well. She stared at Feng Wu and asked, Is that a yes? Feng Wu nodded. Yup. Wang Junwen couldn't believe it at first, but she was then elated. Feng Wu must have lost her mind. What an idiot. She said yes. Fearing that Feng Wu would go back on her word, Wang Junwen said, "Today feels like a good time. Let's do it now." Xiao Wu. The people around Feng Wu all looked at her in astonishment, including Sun Jingyu and Pei Si. Feng Wu said casually, "I have a request." Wang Junwen asked, "What is it?" Feng Wu said, "Class E doesn't stand much of a chance in a 5-on-5 battle against Class D. We won't become your punching bags for nothing. You're going to give us some points as a reward." Wang Junwen had been about to tempt Feng Wu with points in the first place, so she wasn't surprised by the request. "How many points are we talking about?" Feng Wu said, "If we win, you'll give each of our 5 players 5,000 points." "No way." Wang Junwen stared at her. "One person can transfer no more than 1,000 points per month, so 1,000 a player is all I'm going to offer. Mr. Zhu had told Feng Wu that rule before, so Feng Wu didn't object. She nodded and said, "All right." Wang Junwen asked, "What if you lose?" Feng Wu said innocently, "Aren't we your potential punching bags? Do we have to lose points as well? Forget it then." Wang Junwen had come here to kill Feng Wu in public. Feng Wu never put a hit on her head, so Wang Junwen only had an excuse to kill Feng Wu in a duel. She gritted her teeth. "Fine. Have it your way. If your team wins, each player will earn 1,000 points. If you lose, you can't blame anyone for your death. None of us can." Feng Wu said, "All right. You have 10 minutes to choose your players," said Wang Junwen. Only so many people in Class E could take up the challenge, and Sun Jingyu and Pei Si would definitely be in the team. Wang Junwen was determined to teach them a lesson for betraying her. Feng Wu then turned to her friends. Chaoga said, "Count me in." Ziling said timidly, "I won't help you much in the battle, but if Xiao Wu needs me, I'll join in." Feng Wu nodded. She then turned to Sun Jingyu. Sun Jingyu's stomach lurched. This was the thing she feared most. She gave Feng Wu a pleading look. "I've offended Wang Junwen, and part of her rage is directed toward me. I'm worried that." Feng Wu kept her gaze on Sun Jingyu. Chapter 2603 Provocation 4. Chapter 2603 Provocation 4. Sun Jingyu said, "If you have to have me on the team, I guess I can do it." Feng Wu then turned to Pei Si. Pei Si said, "I think Gu Xingyuan would be a better choice, wouldn't he? He's the second best student in our class and will have a much better chance." In other words, she didn't want to be on the team. Before Feng Wu could ask, Gu Xingyuan crossed his arms, distancing himself from the crowd. He snorted, "I'm not cleaning up after you." He then moved further away from Feng Wu. Chu Junying gave Feng Wu a contemptuous look and followed Gu Xingyuan. The students became very quiet. It was supposed to be a 5-person team, but there were only 4 members now. Feng Wu, Chaoga, Ziling and Sun Jingyu. Chaoga looked at Mu Qianqian. Mu Qianqian hesitated. Just then, someone walked up to Feng Wu. "Boss Wu, what about me? If you can't find a 5th member, count me in." It was Zhao Jin, the head of Feng Wu's fan group. Feng Wu didn't know who she was, so Ziling introduced her. Wang Junwen was pleased when she saw how hard it was for Feng Wu to put together a team. She chuckled coldly. "If you have a death wish, feel free to join her team." In other words, she was going to be ruthless. Feng Wu asked Zhao Jin, "Aren't you afraid?" Zhao Jin was so nervous that her hands shook, but she was equally excited. She shook her head solemnly. "I'm not afraid." Feng Wu said, "Good. You're in." Feng Wu gathered the other 4 around her and told them her strategy. Her team members cried out in surprise. What? 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 How can we do that?" In the distance, their classmates were all confused. What was Feng Wu's strategy? Why were they so surprised? They were still wondering when Wang Junwen shouted in a sarcastic tone, "Can we start now?" Feng Wu nodded and led her team to the stage. A high platform about 100 square meters wide stood at one end of the square. It was the battle arena of Class E, and all tests were taken there. Pei Si gave Sun Jingyu a sympathetic look when Sun Jingyu walked past her. You should have said no. Sun Jingyu smirked. Since I've chosen Feng Wu, I'll stick with her no matter what. I'm not a fence-sitter like you. Pei Si said, You're an idiot. Sun Jingyu walked past Pei Si with her chin raised. In fact, she was crying inwardly. She would never have come up here if her hand hadn't been forced. She kept her struggle to herself. All 10 people went up to the stage. Wang Junwen looked at each of Feng Wu's team members in turn until her gaze landed on Feng Wu. She sneered at them. Who's the first one? Wang Junwen was the first player on Feng Wu's team. Ziling stepped out and walked up to Wang Junwen. Wang Junwen's eyes glinted coldly. She hadn't heard of Ziling's name until she investigated Feng Wu. She now knew that Ziling was in the same dormitory as Feng Wu. Wang Junwen had brought a lethal weapon with her, something she had borrowed from her uncle, Mr. Wang. That was why she had volunteered to be the first player. She thought that she could kill Feng Wu all by herself. Since Ziling was Feng Wu's fan, she decided to teach the girl a lesson. Ziling hopped around like a bunny and bowed when she was in front of Wang Junwen. Hello, Sister Wang Junwen. Feng Wu crossed her hands behind her back and smiled. If Wang Junwen knew what her plan was. Chapter 2604 Shocked 1. Chapter 2604 Shocked 1. Zhenya was furious when she noticed that Lu Xiao couldn't keep his eyes off Ziling. Do you care so much about her? They had fought numerous times because of Ziling, so Lu Xiao ignored her. Zhenya smirked. You better stop caring. Do you see the look in Wang Junwen's eyes? She looks like she's going to swallow Ziling whole. She's going to be relentless, and Ziling is as good as dead. Lu Xiao still didn't respond. Zhenya was so frustrated that she prayed for Ziling's death. She was going to be disappointed. After Ziling greeted Wang Junwen with a bow, Wang Junwen snorted. Are you ready? Ziling nodded. Yes. Wang Junwen had just picked up her sword when Ziling said, I give up. What? Everyone was astonished. Zhenya's mouth fell open. Pei Si didn't know what to say. All the students couldn't believe their ears. She gave up. Just like that. They were expecting to see Wang Junwen beat up Ziling, and blood splash everywhere, but none of that was going to happen. Wang Junwen was obviously shocked by what Ziling said. She stared at Ziling. What did you say? Ziling said innocently, I said I give up. The rules don't say that I can't do that. Am I not allowed to give up? Today, Ziling wore a cape with white fur trimming, and the hood had fluffy rabbit ears on it. Her hair accessories were tiny fluffy orbs that swayed when she walked, giving her an adorable look. When she looked at Wang Junwen, she was as innocent as a bunny. Wang Junwen was so furious that she thought she was going to explode. Ziling ran back to her team and gave her team members high fives. Wang Junwen didn't know what to say. The other students were all speechless. Zhenya said, Damn it! Why won't she die? Lu Xiao glanced at her and wondered when the kind Zhenya became so vicious. She wanted Ziling to die. That was horrible. At that thought, he took a step away from Zhenya, but Zhenya was too overwhelmed by her rage to notice. Zhao Zhen was the second player to go on stage. She was as lovely as Ziling. Walking up to Wang Junwen, she said sternly, You're a student of Class D, but you're forcing us to take part in this 5-to-5 battle with you. That's preposterous. Even if you win, this unequal contest won't bring you any honor. Wang Junwen didn't know what to say. She had never expected a petty student of Class E to insult her like that. She was determined to kill Zhao Zhen. However, before she could do anything, Zhao Zhen rested her hands on her hips and smirked. I'm not fighting a bad person like you. It won't be a fair battle. I give up. She quickly ran off the stage after that. Wang Junwen's eyes widened. She had been insulted for nothing. And it didn't stop there. Sun Jingyu was the next player, and she gave up as well. Wang Junwen could live with that because Sun Jingyu wasn't all that close to Feng Wu, so it was only normal that she didn't want to die for her, but Chaoga was a different story. She hardly ever left Feng Wu's side. However, even she walked up to Wang Junwen, snorted, and said she gave up. She ran off the stage as well. Chapter 2605 Shocked 2. Chapter 2605 Shocked 2. Wang Junwen was so furious. She would vent all her rage on Feng Wu, the last player. Feng Wu's other teammates all gave up and didn't have even a single scratch on them, but that also meant that they stood very little chance of winning. That was what everyone else believed. Led by Lu Qi, the anti-fans started doing their thing again, spreading all sorts of rumors about Feng Wu. The neutral ones didn't say anything, but they were all frowning. Feng Wu's fans felt defeated. Despite the frustration, they managed to stay strong. They cheered for Feng Wu and tried to explain Feng Wu's defeat, saying that it wasn't a fair battle. Up on stage, Wang Junwen stared at Feng Wu. She decided that Feng Wu wasn't going to get away this time. She said, "Feng Wu, are you going to act like a coward and give up just like your teammates? If so, I'll despise you as well as all of Class E." That was a clever thing to say. She tied Feng Wu's behavior to the honor of all of Class E. Damaging her own reputation would be the same as damaging that of their class. If Feng Wu admitted defeat without fighting, the whole class would hate her. All the students of Class E stared at Feng Wu. What would she do? If she gave in, she would be disgraced together with Class E. If not, she would have to fight all 5 people, including Lei Bao, who was supposed to be very powerful. What choice would Feng Wu make? Feng Wu glanced at her and nodded. Wang Junwen stared at her. "Are you giving up?" Feng Wu rolled her eyes at her. "You talk too much." Wang Junwen's eyes widened. Feng Wu said, "Just get on with the fighting already. What's with all the trash talk? Don't you know that talking too much can get you killed?" "Me? Killed? Huh." Wang Junwen laughed. "We're going to fight until one of us drops. If that doesn't scare you, bring it on." Feng Wu said, "All right." Wang Junwen was elated. She didn't give Feng Wu time to react and struck at Feng Wu's head with the saber that contained Mr. Wang's full power. "Oh no," Sun Jingyu murmured. Everyone looked at her. Sun Jingyu said, "The saber belongs to Mr. Wang and he can infuse it with his spiritual essence." That is to say, Wang Junwen borrowed his power. Gosh! What is Feng Wu going to do? Many people paled. Wang Junwen was from Class D, and she had borrowed Mr. Wang's power to boot. Feng Wu wouldn't stand a chance. Can she somehow dodge that blow? That's impossible. She's going to die. She shouldn't have agreed to fight to the death. Now, no one can avenge her anymore. Everyone was talking at the same time. They were right. The saber was indeed Wang Junwen's secret weapon. She had received it from Mr. Wang, her uncle, and the saber contained his full power. The attack would be terrifying if she exerted all the energy at once. She was confident that she would win. However, when she struck at Feng Wu jumped up and kicked at the edge of the blade. The saber's energy backfired, and Wang Junwen became the target instead. Chapter 2606 Shocked 3. Chapter 2606 Shocked 3. There was no way that Wang Junwen could withstand such power. Thud! The blade hit her on the head. It instantly split her skull open. What? Everyone stared at Wang Junwen and the saber buried in her skull. Then, their gazes shifted to Feng Wu. Wang Junwen's head is cut up. She's dead. What did Feng Wu do? I don't think she did anything. She just jumped up and kicked the saber. Then Wang Junwen is dead. This turn of events shocked everyone. Their mouths hung open, and they didn't know how to react. They weren't the only ones. Wang Junwen's 4 friends were equally baffled. Yu Hong ran to Wang Junwen's side and held her body in his arms. He screamed her name, Junwen, Junwen. They had managed to save Wang Junwen when her neck was cut open, but her head was split in 2 now, and there was nothing they could do. Yu Hong kept banging his fists against his head. It's all my fault. It's all my fault. You barely escaped death, but now, if I had known, I would have stopped you. The students of Class E didn't know what to say. If Yu Hong hadn't brought it up, they would have forgotten that Wang Junwen had been defeated by Feng Wu once. She didn't even wait an hour before she came here, trying to get revenge with that saber. However, she couldn't be brought back to life this time. She totally had it coming. I don't know if I should feel sorry for her or laugh at her. No one showed any sympathy. Not only that, they also laughed at her, making her death seem pathetic. Yu Hong put down Wang Junwen and walked up to Feng Wu. Feng Wu glanced at him. Shall we begin? Begin? Yu Hong didn't want to die. He knew perfectly well how formidable Feng Wu was. I give up. Yu Hong gave Feng Wu a dirty look before leaving. Everyone was speechless. Wang Junwen had despised Feng Wu's teammates for giving up. What Yu Hong did was practically mocking her. The 3rd and 4th players in Wang Junwen's team looked at each other. The battle between Feng Wu and Wang Junwen was proof enough of Feng Wu's capability. There was no need to struggle. They had no chance at all. Both players admitted defeat without putting up a fight. The students of Class D had given up. Feng Wu frowned. I still think we should have a battle. I promise I won't kill you. The 3rd player flushed and walked away. The 4th player considered the offer and made up his mind. Let's do it then. Feng Wu kept her promise. They exchanged quite a few blows before she kicked the player off the stage, saying, Good job. The player thought, no, it wasn't. You could have defeated me with a single blow. Flushing, he cupped his fists at Feng Wu and ran off. Lei Bao was the only player left. Chapter 2607 Shocked 4. Chapter 2607 Shocked 4. Lei Bao's eyes glinted coldly. It had cost Wang Junwen quite a few points to convince Lei Bao to join her in battle. Since he had taken the reward in advance, he thought he should see it through. Now that Wang Junwen was dead, he couldn't return the points and had no choice but to fight Feng Wu. He stared at her. Let's do this. Feng Wu was far more capable than Lei Bao and could easily kill him, but she didn't want to create any unnecessary trouble. Wang Junwen had it coming, but Lei Bao was a different story. After all, killing people should be avoided if one could help it. Feng Wu casually exchanged a few blows with Lei Bao before kicking him off the stage. Wow! The crowd was shocked when Lei Bao was defeated. Did Feng Wu win the battle? Lei Bao is a capable fighter even in Class D, and he just lost the battle to Feng Wu. Oh my god! Feng Wu is such a hidden treasure. Earlier, when Feng Wu became first on the billboard, Lu Qi and her friends tried to convince themselves that it was a mistake with the system. Now, however, they couldn't deny the fact that Feng Wu had defeated Lei Bao. Lei Bao lay flat on his stomach on the ground, too baffled to move. He had lost. How did that happen? A student from Class E had defeated him. Had this world gone insane, or had the students of Class E made unexpected improvements? The students of Class E weren't helping either. Is Class D getting weaker? Why do I feel that they're not as tough as before? Am I correct to assume that if I go up there, I can kick some of them off the stage as well? There I was, wondering how tough Class D was, and here they are, having lost a 5-on-5 battle to our class. The 3rd and 4th players in Wang Junwen's team were utterly embarrassed. They picked up Lei Bao and were ready to leave. Wait! Feng Wu stopped them. Yu Hong said, Feng Wu, you've killed Wang Junwen. What more do you want? You need to back off. Feng Wu glanced at him. What's your relationship with Wang Junwen? Yu Hong said, I was her boyfriend. Feng Wu said, good. Pay up. Wang Junwen promised each of us 1,000 points. We're ready to receive what we're owed. Yu Hong's cheeks flushed in frustration. Students of Class D could earn points a little faster than those of Class E, but the points were still as valuable to them as to everyone else. He didn't have 5,000 points to spare. I don't have so many points. Yu Hong flushed. Feng Wu crossed her arms and smiled at the 4 students of Class D. You don't have them, you say? In that case, no one is leaving. Everyone else was goggling at the 4 people, and Lei Bao couldn't stand the humiliation. He gritted his teeth and said, I have them. He paid all 5,000 points for his teammates. After that, they practically fled the scene. The students of Class E were still trying to digest the information. Feng Wu had won the battle. Not only that, she also killed Wang Junwen. What was more, she defeated Lei Bao. Moreover, she received 5,000 points from Lei Bao. 5,000 points. Everyone in Feng Wu's team would get 1,000 points each. What did the other 4 players do? Nothing. They jumped onto the stage, stood in front of Wang Junwen, and said they gave up. They promptly left the stage after that. It was the most straightforward task, and they all earned 1,000 points for it. Earning points was always a difficult thing to do. Chapter 2608 Formidable Feng Wu 1. Chapter 2608 Formidable Feng Wu 1. It was the most straightforward task, and they all earned 1,000 points for it. Earning points was always a difficult thing to do. The attitudes of the students of Class E toward Feng Wu had utterly changed. They now worshipped the ground she walked on. Pacey regretted it so much. She smacked herself on the forehead. She could have grabbed the chance while she had it, but she had been too scared to do so, and had turned down the offer. She had said no to 1,000 points. She had only needed to tell Wang Junwen that she would give up in order to earn 1,000 points. Pacey was so frustrated that she was almost in tears. What was more, the looks her classmates gave her made her feel like a fool. Despite their astonishment, the students discussed the matter avidly among themselves. Zhao Zhen and other fans of Feng Wu capered about, shouting and laughing. Zhao Zhen was kind enough to distribute her points so that all her fans received a little reward. Because of that, they became even more excited. Lu Qi and her fellow anti-fans felt utterly defeated. They were filled with rage but had no way to vent their frustration. Even more students had left the group and switched sides to the fans. Nothing Lu Qi said could persuade them to stay, and she stomped her foot in rage. She gave Feng Wu a dirty look. What are you smiling about? You really killed Wang Junwen this time. Mister. Wang will make you pay. Her friend tugged her sleeve and whispered, but they were supposed to fight to the death. They agreed to it beforehand. Lu Qi snorted. So what if they did? Mister. Wang won't be able to do anything openly, but he can make her life miserable in 100 ways. Just wait and see. Her friends nodded, looking forward to seeing Mr. Wang's revenge. Mr. Zhu didn't know whether to laugh or to cry. Feng Wu was more courageous and capable than he had expected. He thought that if His Royal Highness really cared about her as much as he was rumored to, she had every reason to be courageous. Something happened before the crowd scattered. Do you hear that? Those are heavy footsteps. They turned around to find a large group of people. They were students of Class D. There were so many of them. There were at least 1,000 students. The Class E students paled. What did these people want? Soon, they were faced with all the Class D students. There were indeed over 1,000 students. They were led by Mr. Wang. The energy the Class D students gave off was too much for Class E to withstand. Their eyes were bloodshot red, and they looked like they were going to collapse. Mr. Zhu stepped forward and stared coldly at Mr. Wang. Mr. Wang, what are you doing? Mr. Wang ignored him and only stared at Feng Wu. Frustrated, Mr. Zhu studied the aggressive Class D before looking at Mr. Wang again. Mr. Wang, please explain yourself. Are they all here to start a group fight with Class E? Mr. Zhu raised his voice. Mr. Wang glanced at him and snorted. We teachers should stay out of it. It's a student matter. He then moved aside with a vicious look in his eyes. Chapter 2609, Formidable Feng Wu 2. Chapter 2609, Formidable Feng Wu 2. Wang Junwen was dead. Although Mr. Wang had paid Class E a visit, Wang Junwen had still been killed in the end. The humiliation was too great for Mr. Wang to bear. When he stepped aside, someone said quietly, "This is a student matter. Mr. Zhu, please leave it to us." It was Wu Lingyue, the 11th student on Class D's billboard and the most popular girl in the class. Mr. Zhu frowned and gave Feng Wu a concerned look. It was evident that these people were here because of Feng Wu. Feng Wu smiled at Mr. Zhu and gave him a nod. Mr. Zhu finally stepped aside. So, you're Feng Wu. Wu Lingyue was alarmed as soon as she saw Feng Wu. What a beautiful girl, she thought. Feng Wu had exquisite features and the smoothest skin. She wouldn't blink even if Mount Everest crumbled in front of her. No worldly matters seemed to be able to affect her. Wu Lingyue was jealous. She felt threatened. It was said that Feng Wu had defeated Lei Bao. That was to say, she was definitely good enough to join Class D. When that happened, Wu Lingyue wouldn't be the most popular girl anymore. She deemed Feng Wu the enemy of her life at first glance, but Feng Wu had no idea of any of it. Wu Lingyue stared at Feng Wu. You killed Wang Junwen. You insulted my classmates. Kneel and apologize. Wu Lingyue pointed at her classmates behind her and raised her chin when she spoke to Feng Wu. No matter how pretty Feng Wu was after she knelt on the ground, no one would respect her after she went to Class D, and Wu Lingyue could still be the most popular girl. Kneel and apologize. Chaoga was furious. She pointed at Wu Lingyue and said, I'm warning you, you've crossed the line. Wu Lingyue raised her hand and was going to slap Chaoga. How dare a mere Class E student talk to me that way? However, as soon as she made a move, Feng Wu stepped out and slapped Wu Lingyue instead. Smack! The crisp sound resonated in the air. Feng Wu had slapped Wu Lingyue. It was the last thing everyone expected to see. Wu Lingyue was like a princess in Class D. Many boys were in love with her. As expected, everyone was astonished. They couldn't believe how bold Feng Wu was. Wu Lingyue was the first to react. She stared at Feng Wu and said, You. She covered her right cheek and didn't know what else to say. She had been slapped. She couldn't believe it. She glared at Feng Wu. You hit me. How dare you? All her classmates took a few steps forward, and nearly all the boys stood around Wu Lingyue. Wu Lingyue was both the class president and their dream girl. Feng Wu, do you think I'm too afraid to kill you? Wu Lingyue gritted her teeth. Feng Wu glanced at her and asked sarcastically, Can you? Wu Lingyue was rendered speechless. The pretty girl standing next to her said, Lingyue, you don't need to show her mercy. Wu Lingyue nodded and said to Feng Wu, You forced Wang Junwen to fight to the death and humiliated my classmates. It's too late for you to apologize now. Chapter 2610, Formidable Feng Wu 3. Chapter 2610, Formidable Feng Wu 3. Feng Wu, prepare to be challenged. Wu Lingyue smirked. Feng Wu was a little intrigued. Wu Lingyue said, You're going to fight to the death, because that was how you killed Wang Junwen and humiliated my class. We're going to do the same to you. Face your death. The Class E students were shocked. Seriously? Another challenge. That was twice in a row. Sun Jingyu lowered her voice. We're in trouble. Chowga smirked. No, we're not. Just beat them. Sun Jingyu frowned. You don't know what you're talking about. Class E students usually have to pass an exam to get into Class D. That is to say, they're generally better than us. Chowga said, so what? We won, didn't we? Sun Jingyu said, that's not the same. Lei Bao was their best fighter. Although we consider him a capable fighter, he's only an average student in Class D. Look at the people Wu Lingyue brought with her. Sun Jingyu was almost in tears. Wu Lingyue is 11th herself, and the teenagers behind her are ranked from 6th to 10th. Chowga said, I don't care what their rankings are. Xiao Wu can beat them all. Sun Jingyu was too frustrated to speak. Feng Wu couldn't possibly beat them all, because there were 1,000 Class D students here. Feng Wu found Wu Lingyue's suggestion idiotic. Why should I do as you say? After being slapped by Feng Wu, Wu Lingyue wanted to kill her this instant. She asked coldly, what would it take to make you participate? Feng Wu asked, what kind of fight will it be? Wu Lingyue said, 1,000 Class D students will take turns fighting 1,000 Class E students, one at a time. Feng Wu glanced at her. Are you trying to turn us into your punching bags? We're not idiots. No way. Wu Lingyue grew impatient. You made a bet with Wang Junwen earlier, didn't you, using points as the stake? Feng Wu's eyes lit up. What are you suggesting? Wu Lingyue said, we can do the same. Feng Wu said, our agreement with Wang Junwen was that we would earn points if we won, but if we lost, we didn't need to pay anything. Wu Lingyue said, I can live with that. Feng Wu said, if you lose, each of your team members will give us 1,000 points. Wu Lingyue said, I can live with that. Feng Wu looked at her in amazement. You do realize what you've agreed to do, right? Wu Lingyue smirked. I do, but we have one more request. Feng Wu asked, what? You'll be the first in line. You need to fight first. Wu Lingyue smirked. You're going to be our first punching bag. She didn't want that I give up fiasco to happen again. And you're not allowed to admit defeat. If you agree to that, all of us will offer 1,000 points each as the stake. Agreed? She asked the Class D students behind her. Students of Class D were so angry because Yu Hong had gone back to tell them that Class E had humiliated Class D. That was why they had come here full of anger. Agreed, the students of Class D said in unison. Wu Lingyue sneered at Feng Wu. Feng Wu shrugged and asked the students of Class E, we can all earn 1,000 points for free. Isn't that a sweet deal? Chapter 26:11 Formidable Feng Wu 4. Chapter 26:11 Formidable Feng Wu 4. Class E was intimidated by Class D at first, but seeing how calm Feng Wu was, they felt much more reassured. Zhao Zhen had enjoyed being part of the last bet, and was the first to step out. I'll do it! Feng Wu's other fans followed suit. I'll do it too! Count me in! Count me in! So what if they might be beaten up for nothing? Feng Wu needed their support. They were all prepared to lose their fights. Feng Wu currently had 700 fans. The neutral group remained unbiased. Lu Qi immediately saw what she had to do. She needed to stop them from switching to Feng Wu's side so that Feng Wu would be even more humiliated. She snorted. Are you people idiots? You know you're going to lose, but you're still supporting Feng Wu. Zhao Zhen asked, how do you know we'll lose? Lu Qi said, are you blind? Do you know who they are? They're from Class D. Do you know what that means? They had to pass a test to get there, which means that they used to be the best students of Class E. Frankly speaking, the weakest Class E student is still better than our top student. Zhao Zhen said, but Xiao Wu. She's an exception. Can't you see that? Even if she can beat 50 or 100 people, can she defeat 1,000 of them? Zhao Zhen didn't know what to say. Lu Qi said, "It's an impossible fight. You'll never win and will be beaten up for nothing. That's not even the worst-case scenario. What if they kill you? You'll die for nothing." The neutral party didn't know what to say. Lu Qi said, "Only idiots will join Feng Wu." She turned around and saw that there were fewer than 200 anti-fans left. They all stood there, showing no intention to fight. "Very nice." Just then, Sun Jingyu said, "Since the honor of Class E is concerned, as the class president, I have to do something." After joining Feng Wu, Sun Jingyu looked back at her fellow classmates and smirked. "Have you forgotten how Class D picks on you all the time? If you want to swallow that humiliation, be my guest." Pei Si regretted missing out the first time, and wasn't going to miss this opportunity. She joined Feng Wu's team as well. "Only when we're too scared to fight will we truly lose the battle. I don't want to lose." Seeing that the previous top 2 students had joined Feng Wu, even the neutral group grew excited. "Class D won't stop picking on us, and they've come to our doorstep." "That's right. It was a fair fight. One of them died in battle, and they're making it sound like it's our fault. They've crossed the line. Why did we even become martial arts practitioners? To swallow this kind of humiliation? You do what you want, but I'm going to fight." Members of the neutral group joined Feng Wu's team one after another. The team was filled up almost instantly. There were only 2 places left. "Where is Gu Xingyuan? Isn't he the second best student in our class now? How can he miss such a big event?" "That's right. Does he value the honor of our class at all?" The students glared at Gu Xingyuan. They used to respect him, but that had changed. Chapter 26:12 1 versus 1001. Chapter 26:12 1 versus 1001. Since Gu Xingyuan was second on the billboard, it was only natural for him to step up when his class was in trouble. However, Gu Xingyuan crossed his arms and smirked. Chu Junying tugged at his sleeve. "Shall we pretend to give them a hand?" Gu Xingyuan gritted his teeth. "I'll give anything to see her killed." His classmates were speechless. Their impression of Gu Xingyuan immediately deteriorated. "I don't care what grudge he holds against Feng Wu. When the honor of this class is concerned, he should put aside his personal vendetta. Class D has humiliated our class, and we're going to fight for our honor. It's not about Feng Wu." "That's right. We're defending our dignity." Wu Lingwei frowned. She had been told that everybody in Class E despised Feng Wu, but why were they defending her now? So be it. Soon, they would all hate Feng Wu. Wu Lingwei stared at Feng Wu and said coldly, "Each team will consist of 1,000 students. I don't care in what order your classmates will take the challenge, but you have to be the first player." Feng Wu turned around and said to the other students of Class E, "We'll go in the order of your rankings on the billboard, from top to bottom." She was to go first, followed by Sun Jingyu, Pei Si, and the other students. Class D students were doing it the other way round. The first player was the 1,000th student on Class D's billboard. Wu Lingwei sneered at Feng Wu and thought, "She thinks she's so amazing, does she? She'll be killed by the exhaustion." She was eager to see how long Feng Wu could endure. Chang Ji was ranked 1,000th on Class D's billboard. Wu Lingwei was his goddess, and Feng Wu had just slapped Wu Lingwei. Because of that, Chang Ji hated Feng Wu. He smirked at her and said, "How dare a mere Class E student behave so arrogantly? I'm gonna kill you." However, Feng Wu brushed him away before his fist could touch her. Chang Ji flew to the side, fell to the ground and was incapacitated. The other students were all speechless. The students of Class E had seen how Feng Wu handled Wang Junwen before and weren't surprised, but the students of Class D didn't expect to see this. One punch. How could a Class E student be so capable? She took out Changji with a single punch. Feng Wu frowned. This is too slow. Why don't you come all at once? All at once? All 1,000 of them? That was ridiculous. The students of Class D felt humiliated. How dare she do this to us? She must have a death wish. That's right. We should teach her a lesson. The 999th student went over to Feng Wu and shouted, "Go to hell!" Before he could utter another word, he was sent flying backward. Feng Wu shook her head at Wu Lingyue. You guys are so slow. Wu Lingyue felt her cheeks burn. The weakest student of Class D was supposed to be better than the strongest student in Class E. This wasn't supposed to happen. Wu Lingyue stared at Feng Wu. The rule says that we should fight in turn, but if you insist, we can send 2 players at a time. That would be faster, so Feng Wu nodded. The 998th and 997th students went up on stage together. They exchanged looks before they sneered at Feng Wu. What a bold request! You're going to regret it. Thump! Feng Wu kicked both of them away before they could say another word. Chapter 26:13 1 versus 1002. Chapter 26:13 1 versus 1002. The 998th and 997th students flew off in different directions. Feng Wu's classmates were amazed. They knew Feng Wu was good, but they didn't think she was that good. The Class D students frowned, and their faces darkened. The 996th and 995th students went on stage. Then the 994th and 993 RD. This continued until the 894th and 893rd, and Feng Wu lost her patience. Can you send more people? Wu Lingyue was speechless. So were the students of Class D. Isn't she tired after so many battles? One of the students said gingerly, she only needed to use 1 kick each round, which probably isn't too demanding. Wu Lingyue glared at her. The student lowered her head. Wu Lingyue took a deep breath. We'll go in groups of 3s. That didn't change anything. None of the groups could withstand a single strike. Wu Lingyue said, 4 then? Feng Wu still didn't need to strike twice. She yawned. I'm getting sleepy. You guys should put more effort into it. The 555th student had just been kicked off the stage, and he wanted to cry when he heard those words. Put more effort into it? She makes it sound like we don't want to, but we never get the chance. She kicks us off the stage before we can figure out what to do. How humiliating. Feng Wu urged Wu Lingyue. Send more people. Wu Lingyue was shocked. She looked like she had seen a ghost. When Yu Hong and his friends said that Feng Wu was good, Wu Lingyue hadn't thought much of it. After all, how good could a Class E student be? However, they were down to the 555th student. And they had gone in groups of 4s, but she still managed to kick away 4 people with a single kick. No one had seen her use a second strike. Was she even human? Class D was crestfallen, while Class E was astonished. Feng Wu has just defeated the 555th student in a 1-on-4 battle. Does that mean that if she enters Class D now, she'll be at least 555th among them? She kicked away 4 students, including the 555th, all at once. Do you still think that she'd be the 555th? What are you suggesting? Just wait and see. I'm looking forward to the final outcome. Do you think it'll be like last time? Maybe none of us needs to fight, and we'll each get 1,000 points for free. Lu Qi sneered at her classmates, finding their conversation stupid. Are you idiots? Can't you see that it was the weaker ones who went on stage first? They've only sent out 555 students, and the capable ones have yet to come. The Class E students immediately stopped cheering. That's right, the stronger players haven't gone up to the stage yet. They didn't know how long Feng Wu could keep doing this for. Meanwhile, Feng Wu asked Wu Lingyue, Can you send more people? More people? Why was she asking for more people? Wu Lingwe looked resentfully at Feng Wu. She was embarrassed that they still hadn't been able to make Feng Wu strike twice, so she nodded. We'll attack her in groups of 6 students. Feng Wu shook her head. Don't be so stingy. What good can 6 people do? Chapter 26:14 1 versus 1003. Chapter 26:14 1 versus 1003. Stingy? Wu Lingwe was furious. Fine. I see you're very proud of yourself. Wu Lingwe turned to the next group of 6 students. You know what to do. The leader of the group was a teenager called Yuan Shan, and he nodded. Our top priority is to defeat Feng Wu. Yes. Wu Lingwe clenched her fist. However, she was doomed to be disappointed. Thump, 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 thump. Just like before, the 6 students were kicked off the stage. They created large holes in the ground when they landed. Wu Lingwe was speechless. So were the other students of Class D. Feng Wu shook her head at Wu Lingwe. I told you so. Wu Lingwe was speechless. She had sent over 500 classmates up on stage. 6 such students put together should be equivalent to at least one top 400 student. This Feng Wu. Students were applauding. They were Feng Wu's fellow classmates and had been prompted by Chaoga. The applause continued. All the Class E students rose to their feet excitedly and shouted as they clapped. You're amazing, Feng Wu. Keep up the good work. Go get them. Her fans were so thrilled that they jumped to their feet. Feng Wu fought 6 opponents at once, and it only took her 1 strike to beat them. Her fans were so proud of her. The students of Class D were so frustrated that they all clenched their fists and wanted to fight Feng Wu. Some even asked Wu Lingwe to send them up next. Everyone was shouting at the same time. Wu Lingwe almost lost control of the situation. Over on Class E's side. Hearing the hubbub, Feng Wu gestured downward with her palm. Everyone instantly quieted down. It was amazing how easily she got everything under control. Feng Wu turned to Wu Lingwe. I'm getting sleepy. I want to go to bed. Wu Lingwe's eyes widened. Are you going to quit now? Feng Wu rolled her eyes at her. Chaoga chimed in. We told you to send more people, but you wouldn't. Why are you so fussy? Can't you read between the lines? Send more people. The Class E students were used to being bullied by Class D, and had never felt so satisfied before. Hearing what Chaoga said, they hooted, Send more people. Send more people. Even Sun Jingyu and Pei Si joined in. Seeing how popular Feng Wu had become, Gu Xingyuan was displeased. Wu Lingwe gritted her teeth and stared at Feng Wu. I was going to make it easy for you, but you wouldn't take the chance when you had it. Fine. You'll get what you want. She gave the order. Next 10, you're up. The 10 students were thrilled. Finally, they could save Class D's dignity. However, thump, thump, thump. It still only took Feng Wu 1 kick. The 10 students flew backward. Wu Lingwe was speechless. They all fell off the stage and landed on their heads. When they were pulled out of the holes created by the impact, their heads were covered in blood. It was a shocking scene. The students of Class D didn't know what to say. The students who had yet to go up were frightened. They weren't much more capable than those people. Would the same thing happen to them? Wu Lingwe said, Send 20. 10 more people couldn't make a difference. It had still only taken Feng Wu 1 kick. Chapter 26:15 1 versus 1004. Chapter 26:15 1 versus 1004. Things moved much faster now that they were fighting in groups of 20 students. Before long, there were only 50 students left, including Wu Lingwe. At the same time, all the students in both classes were astonished. Feng Wu. How could she be so capable? There were fewer than 100 students left, and no one could even touch her. Was she even human? The students of Class E were the most excited ones. They had joined the fight on the spur of the moment, but once they could think straight again, they were shocked by their own choice. They were going to confront the students of Class D. It could get them killed. However, they had already said that they would stand alongside Feng Wu. It would be too embarrassing to back out, so they decided to wait and see. Then, they watched as Feng Wu annihilated Class D. It was one-on-one battles at first, and it soon became 1-on-2, 1-on-4, and all the way to 1-on-20. Feng Wu kept winning. She finished every battle with a single kick. Was she even human? In Class E, Sun Jingyu clapped until her palms were all red, but she went on clapping. She knew she had underestimated Feng Wu, but she realized that underestimated was an understatement. Pacey was so astonished that she didn't know what to say. The thought of her previous attempt to assassinate Feng Wu made her want to look for a hole to crawl into. Countless people capered and clapped, but many people were displeased as well. Lu Qi was one of the displeased ones. The students who didn't join the fight sat slightly further away. Damn it! Lu Qi was furious. She couldn't understand how Feng Wu could be so capable. Lu Qi, do you think Feng Wu will defeat all of them? One of Lu Qi's friends asked timidly. Nonsense! Lu Qi shouted. That's not going to happen. They still have 50 students to go. Although the top 5 students are out on a mission, what they have here is enough to crush Feng Wu. But what if? Lu Qi smacked her forehead. You're right. Go find Huashan and the others. Now. Huashan was the top student of Class D. Feng Wu looked at Wu Lingyue while Wu Lingyue stared back at her. Feng Wu sighed. How many people do you have left? Wu Lingyue ground her teeth. 50. Feng Wu casually suggested, how about you send them all in one big group? Wu Lingyue asked, do you think we're that weak? Feng Wu snapped, I don't want to think that way, but can you persuade me otherwise? Shut up. You've crossed the line. She's humiliating us, and I won't have it. All the Class D students reacted strongly and demanded, let us fight her. They all wanted to be the next to fight Feng Wu. Wu Lingyue felt conflicted. Having observed Feng Wu for this long, she knew perfectly well that none of her classmates could beat Feng Wu in a one-on-one battle. Fine. All 50 then. Wu Lingyue made up her mind. Wu Lingyue, what's that supposed to mean? All 50? That's not fair. One of the Class D students questioned her decision. Wu Lingyue ground her teeth. Of course she wanted one-on-one battles, but Feng Wu wasn't that kind of an opponent. She wasn't even sure if 50 people would be enough to take Feng Wu down. Chapter 26:16 Lost Again 1. Chapter 26:16 Lost Again 1. Fine. All 50 then. Wu Lingyue made up her mind. Wu Lingyue, what's that supposed to mean? All 50? That's not fair. One of the Class D students questioned her decision. Wu Lingyue ground her teeth. Of course she wanted 1v1 battles, but Feng Wu wasn't that kind of opponent. She wasn't even sure if 50 people would be enough to take Feng Wu down. I said 50, so 50 it is. Wu Lingyue gritted her teeth. Everybody who wasn't a top 10 student nodded because they were all shocked by Feng Wu's capability. They had never met a new student as good as she was. However, the 6th to 10th were all proud students, so they all said no. Wu Lingyue stomped her foot. Why? That's the best choice for us. He the 6th said, 50 people is too many. It's not fair to her. All the students of Class D and Class E heard him. The students of Class D were so furious and didn't think much of what he said, but the students of Class E opened their eyes wide. Was he too arrogant or hypocritical? If a 1v50 battle wasn't fair, would 5 fewer people make a difference? They protested, saying that Class D had crossed the line. Wu Lingwei stared at He. Feng Wu had agreed to a 1v50 battle. They should take advantage of it. They would all have to pay 1,000 points if they lost. Class D would go bankrupt. No matter what Wu Lingwei said, he shook his head decisively. If all 45 lose, we'll get the points back for you. Wu Lingwei was furious, but Feng Wu only said, "Are we fighting or not? You can always surrender. That way, no one will get hurt." Those words set Wu Lingwei off. She stomped her foot and glared at Feng Wu. "Of course we're going to fight. You said you could fight 50 people at once. It's not like we're taking advantage of you." Feng Wu casually said, "I thought it would make things move faster." Wu Lingwei said, "I see how arrogant you are, Feng Wu. Let's see how long you can keep it up. Get her." The 11th to the 55th, Wu Lingwei included, charged at Feng Wu together. What would happen to Feng Wu? The Class D students were excited. They were sure that Feng Wu would lose this time. They had no problem with having 45 students fight Feng Wu. The Class E students disagreed. They were anxious when they saw the 45 students running at Feng Wu. The three groups still existed. The number of Feng Wu's fans had continued to grow all this time. They switched from being anti-fans to the neutral camp before becoming Feng Wu's fans. There were fewer than 100 anti-fans left and over 1,000 fans. Zhao Jin felt overwhelmed. Most of the Class E students were displeased. How can they do this? Chapter 26:17 Lost Again, 2. Chapter 26:17 Lost Again, 2. That's ridiculous. 45 people. They're ranked from 11th to 55th in Class D. At that level, the 45 of them can probably defeat Mr. Luo of our class. It isn't a fair match even if they win. Before, it was 50 of US who used to fight one student in Class D. Things have turned around. But no matter how capable Feng Wu is, she's not invincible. She's only 14 years old. How is she going to fight all those older students? I protest this decision. Mu Qianqian looked at the players on the stage and asked nervously, "Boss Feng Wu is going to lose, isn't she?" Before she knew it, Feng Wu was her boss. Sun Jingyu also thought that Feng Wu had almost reached her limit, but then she recalled how Feng Wu had struck Mr. Luo unconscious with a single blow, so she said, "I don't know about that. Somehow, I feel that Feng Wu will show us a miracle again." Pacey said, "No, there won't be any miracles today." Everyone looked at her. She said, "The 10th of Class D is a level 4 spiritual lord who has reached perfection in their cultivation level, and the 55th is an intermediate level 4 spiritual lord. There's no way that Feng Wu can defeat all of them. It's just not going to happen." Mu Qianqian said, "The Class D students are so capable." Ziling wrung her hands, feeling worried. However, Chaoga smiled. "They're only level 4 spiritual lords." The other students looked at her in resignation. Only level 4 spiritual lords? She made it sound like that wasn't difficult enough. They were still discussing among themselves when someone cried out, "Look!" The 45 students had formed a circle, trapping Feng Wu in the middle. They slowly closed in. "It's a formation!" Sun Jingyu, who had been confident about Feng Wu until then, shouted in surprise. "It's a battle formation used specifically by the military. This is bad." The others asked her about it. Sun Jingyu said, "This is a powerful formation that can double the effectiveness of their attacks. Isn't there a way to break it?" Ziling asked anxiously. Sun Jingyu said, "The 45 people must have a leader. Once that person is incapacitated, the formation will stop working. Otherwise, Feng Wu will." The Class E students grew nervous. They hadn't expected things to go this far. Feng Wu was much more capable than they could ever imagine. She had defeated all her opponents so far, which only further raised their expectations. They were even considering the possibility that she could challenge the top student of Class D. We were asking too much of her. Feng Wu has already done a great job. If she had fought them one at a time, she would have made it to the top 3 of Class D. That's right. We can't ask for too much. While they were trying to lower their expectations of Feng Wu made her move. She looked up to find Wu Lingyue hiding from her. Wu Lingyue tried to hide behind another student. Really? Feng Wu smiled. The next second she jumped into the air. Chapter 26:18 Lost Again, 3. Chapter 26:18 Lost Again, 3. Feng Wu moved swiftly toward Wu Lingyue. She grabbed the girl and threw her out of the circle. Thump! Wu Lingyue was 11th in her class. She was the most capable student in the group. There was nothing she could do when Feng Wu grabbed her, and by the time she realized what was going on, she was at the bottom of a crater. She was in so much pain that she didn't have the strength to climb out. He rushed to her side and scooped her out of the crater. When he examined her, he found that 3 of her ribs were broken. Everyone was looking at Wu Lingyue. They were amazed by how efficient Feng Wu's attack was. Before long, more than half of the group had been thrown off the stage. When the crowd finally moved their gaze from Wu Lingyue to the stage, they saw the students of Class D lying on the ground and crying out in pain. It was incredible. OMG! What's going on? When did that happen? I only looked away for a second. Everyone looked at Feng Wu in astonishment. How amazing! Wu Lingyue lay on the ground and stared at Feng Wu. Damn it! If I had been more careful, she would never have been able to. Her classmates gave her strange looks. Wu Lingyue couldn't finish her sentence. Meanwhile, the students of Class E jumped to their feet and applauded. They were so thrilled that they couldn't stop shouting. How uplifting! The students of Class E were buoyed by Feng Wu's achievements. Class D used to pick on them and would scold and hit them for no reason. Class E was at the bottom of the food chain. But now, every student of Class E was thrilled to the bone. There were fewer than 100 anti-fans left, and after this battle, even more people switched side. Soon, there were fewer than 20 people left. Lu Qi was cursing at the top of her lungs, but it was to no avail. Even her closest friends were looking eagerly at Feng Wu's fans. On stage, Feng Wu was asking, "Are you ready to give in yet?" Give in. Wu Lingyue thought she would break down when over 40 of them couldn't do anything to Feng Wu. Most of the Class D students felt the same way. But she didn't want to surrender. Not yet. Wu Lingyue gave He a pleading look. He had been examining Wu Lingyue. Seeing that she wasn't severely injured, he nodded and turned to Feng Wu. "I'll fight you." Feng Wu frowned. "Just you?" He said, "Yes, just me." Feng Wu asked, "What's your ranking?" He said, "I'm 6th. Feng Wu looked at the 4 students behind He. "The 5 of you can form a team." He shook his head. "That won't be necessary. I'm more than enough to fight you." Chapter 26:19 Lost Again, 4. Chapter 26:19 Lost Again, 4. Feng Wu said impatiently, "I don't have that much time to waste. Either you come in a group of 5 or you surrender." That tone. If Feng Wu had said such things before today, she would have drowned in the criticism. All the students in both classes would have laughed at her for being so arrogant. However, everybody felt that Feng Wu had every right to make such a claim. He was furious. He stared at Feng Wu and said, "How conceited you are." Feng Wu said, "It'll only take one strike to defeat all of you." He smirked. "If you think so, I'll give you what you want. Guys, let's do this." He and the other 4 students charged at Feng Wu. The 45-people circle was too crowded for everyone to fight Feng Wu simultaneously, but the 5-member team was just the right size. However, Feng Wu made her move before they were close enough. It was just like she had predicted. She took care of all of them with one strike. Good fight, Feng Wu said indifferently. The crowd was speechless. They thought they couldn't be any more astonished, but as it turned out, after all this time, they could still be shocked once more. Feng Wu is incredible. Those are the 6th to 10th of Class D. And it still only took her one strike. He was bragging about how he alone would be enough to fight Feng Wu, but look what happened. All 5 of them weren't enough. What is Feng Wu's level? Is she a level 5 spiritual lord? I think she's higher than that. While Class E was discussing it avidly, the students of Class D looked defeated. Wu Lingwe felt as if she had been struck by lightning. It took her a while to digest the situation. She was roused by Feng Wu's voice. Anyone else? Her eyes widened when she realized something. She was right to do so because Feng Wu said something right after that. If there's no one else, pay up. She was talking about the point. Wu Lingwe wished that she had passed out. Because she was the most popular girl of Class D, she had made a bet with Class E on behalf of Class D, thinking that it would give her a just cause to teach Feng Wu a lesson. However, it had never occurred to her that Feng Wu would be so formidable. She cursed under her breath. Seeing that no one would speak, Feng Wu frowned at Wu Lingwe. What? Are you going to go back on your word now? Hearing that, the students of Class E grew excited. That's right. We've defeated all 1,000 students. They've lost. Feng Wu defeated all of them. They couldn't even make her act twice. They didn't even fight her one at a time. They came in groups of 4, 5, and even 45. Since when are Class D students so weak? It's not that. Feng Wu is just so powerful. The students of Class E couldn't stop singing Feng Wu's praises. Not only did Feng Wu make them proud, she also earned them so many points. 1,000 points each. Chapter 26:20 Unexpected Arrival 1. Chapter 26:20 Unexpected Arrival 1. They hadn't even needed to do anything. Only 1,000 students of Class E had joined the battle, so about 500 to 600 students wouldn't receive any points. They had all once been Feng Wu's anti-fans, but now they hated Lu Qi. Feng Wu asked Wu Lingwe for the points which Class D owed Class E. Wu Lingwe wished she could pretend to pass out. She grew more and more anxious when a realization hit her. Wait. He wasn't the strongest student of Class D. He was only 6th. 5 more students were more advanced than he was. Those 5 were a team, and Huashan was their team leader. Yes, they needed to find Huashan. As soon as she realized that, she heard footsteps nearby. Footsteps. Everyone turned around to see a 5-student team. The leader was none other than Huashan himself. Wu Lingwe was so excited that she was almost in tears. Huashan! It's Huashan! Wu Lingwe struggled to her feet, despite her broken ribs, and ran toward him. Huashan! They've humiliated our class. We're counting on you now. She could finally think straight. She knew that Huashan wasn't interested in her. She had both implicitly and explicitly expressed her feelings for Huashan several times, but Huashan had remained indifferent, which greatly frustrated her. She knew that Huashan would probably ignore her if she asked him to get revenge for her, so she had to turn the issue into a matter of the entire class's honor. Everyone looked at Huashan. More precisely, they looked at his team. They all had injuries on them. It was clear that they had gone through some brutal battle. Huashan stood there empty-handed while the 4 people behind him carried game. The students didn't recognize what it was, but Mr. Zhu was surprised. It's a 4-horned blood lion, he cried out. The students asked, What's that? Is it tough to kill? Mr. Zhu took a deep breath and assumed an indifferent tone. They're level 5 spiritual lords that have reached their peak. What? The students gasped. Level 5 spiritual lord? Peak. The beast was covered in blood and was obviously dead. Ho Shan's team had killed such a formidable beast. Wu Lingyue was elated. That proved how impressive Ho Shan was. She thought, if they can lend us a hand, we'll win this battle, and we won't need to pay the points. She grabbed Ho Shan's arm and shouted, Ho Shan, our class needs you now. Please help us. The other students weren't deaf. Wu Lingyue's request was a hint. They all chimed in, asking for Ho Shan's help. Ho Shan frowned. What's going on? Wu Lingyue quickly filled him in on today's events and stressed, not only did Feng Wu kill Wang Junwen, she also humiliated our class. We can't let her do that. Chapter 26-21 Unexpected Arrival 2. Chapter 26-21 Unexpected Arrival 2. Yu Hong and Lei Bao nodded in excitement. They had been thrilled when Wu Lingyue said that she would avenge Wang Junwen, but what happened later only disappointed them. Lei Bao had tried to tell himself that he hadn't done his best today, but when he saw what Feng Wu was capable of, he didn't dare utter a word. The students of Class D put all their hopes on Ho Shan. Ho Shan frowned and looked up at Feng Wu. One glance and he froze. He recognized that face. Why was she here? Wu Lingyue was still filling him in on what Feng Wu had done. Ho Shan wasn't listening. He stared at Feng Wu without blinking. Ho Shan was a member of the Martial Arts Society. Chen Ziyun, the president of the society, had held a meeting with the core members before they went out on this mission. He carefully told them that the War Academy would soon have a new member. She was going to be incredible, and her name was Feng Wu. Not Zhuo Qinghuan, but Feng Wu. He said that someone higher up the food chain had ordered him to protect Feng Wu once she arrived. It had to be subtle so that no one would notice. Miss Feng Wu was said to be excellent. Ho Shan didn't believe it at first. If the girl was so important, why would she go to Class East in the first place? But when he saw Feng Wu and all the Class D students that were howling on the ground, he asked involuntarily, "Did you really defeat every single one of them?" Feng Wu asked, "Do you want to join them?" Ho Shan jumped in fright. "Join what?" Feng Wu said matter-of-factly, "Join Class D's team, obviously." Ho Shan paled. Class E started protesting. "You can't do this. Our deal was 1,000 versus 1,000. You can't add 5 more people now." The students of Class D said, "Why can't we? Ho Shan is a member of our class. If you find it unfair, you can always add 5 more people to your team." Class E students said, "Why do we need 5 more people? Feng Wu alone is more than enough." Students of Class D gloated. "If you think so highly of Feng Wu, let her fight. We'll admit our defeat when she beats all the students in our class. We'll then transfer you the points." The students of the 2 classes had a row. Ho Shan's face went pale. Of course, he wouldn't dare fight Feng Wu. Chen Ziyun was his cousin, so when the others left, Ho Shan asked him in private who Feng Wu was and which prominent figure wanted to protect her. Chen Ziyun gave him a mysterious smile and pointed upward. Ho Shan was perplexed. "What do you mean?" Chen Ziyun said, "Do you remember young Lord Feng? He's my boss." Ho Shan said, "Of course I do. He's so famous here in the War Academy. Everybody knows who he is. Plus, he's the Crown Prince's childhood friend." Chen Ziyun chuckled. "He's the one who asked me to protect Feng Wu." Ho Shan asked, "Are Feng Wu and the young lord an item?" Chapter 26-22 Unexpected Arrival 3. Chapter 26-22 Unexpected Arrival 3. "Shut up." Chen Ziyun threw him a dirty look. "Listen, it's about His Royal Highness." He whispered something in Ho Shan's ear before saying, I'm only telling you this because you're my cousin. Don't tell another soul, or we're both dead. Huashan scratched his ear. That last sentence had been so loud that he thought his eardrums would break. His Royal Highness. Really? Huashan? Huashan. Seeing that Huashan was lost in thought, Wu Lingyue shouted his name. How could his mind wander off now? Huashan woke up from his reverie. Wu Lingyue was saying something to him, trying to egg him on. Huashan gave her an indifferent look before walking up to Feng Wu. Wu Lingyue grew suspicious. What was going on with Huashan? Why did it feel like he was being diffident? Wu Lingyue couldn't believe her eyes. Feng Wu also looked at Huashan suspiciously. She asked, "Are you going to join the fight?" Huashan was baffled. Feng Wu asked, "Do you want to fight me?" Huashan immediately shook his head. Of course not. He would never dare fight the future wife of the crown prince. Feng Wu asked, "Are you sure?" Huashan nodded. Feng Wu then asked, "So, what about the points you owe us?" She didn't care much about the points, but it would help her classmates greatly. Huashan said, "Of course we'll pay our debt. It's the right thing to do." All the other students were amazed. Students from both classes stared at him in bewilderment. Wu Lingyue was more shocked than the others. She never saw it coming. Huashan, not only wouldn't he fight, he also agreed to give away the points. Had he forgotten that he was a member of Class D? His classmates glared at him. Huashan could single-handedly defeat all his classmates, and he wouldn't let anyone challenge his authority. When his classmates glared at him, he immediately glared back. The look in his eyes intimidated the others, and they didn't dare look up again. Feng Wu smiled at Huashan. "Your name is Huashan, isn't it?" "Yes," Huashan said respectfully. The boss of his boss had given him the command. Of course he had to obey. Feng Wu said, "In that case, can you collect the points for us?" She was only probing, but Huashan immediately agreed. "With pleasure." Wu Lingyue said, "What pleasure? Huashan, why are you helping an outsider?" She was furious not only because Huashan refused to help, but also because of his attitude toward Feng Wu. Wu Lingyue had tried to suck up to Huashan before, but he only ignored her. When Huashan walked past Wu Lingyue, he said coldly, "Such a loser." "What?" Wu Lingyue felt as if she had been slapped. Huashan asked his classmates, "Are you angry at me for not fighting for you?" Of course they were, but they didn't dare say it. Chapter 26-23 Unexpected Arrival 4. Chapter 26-23 Unexpected Arrival 4. Feng Wu had given Huashan a signed agreement, and Huashan showed it to his classmates. It's written here that each class would come up with 1,000 students. You've all lost, right? If that's the case, why are you asking me to fight? Can a signed agreement be changed so easily? Every student in Class D used to be in Class E before they passed the test, but now 1,000 of you have all been defeated by one Class E student. Aren't you ashamed of yourselves? The students of Class D were so embarrassed that they didn't know what to say. But Huashan was just getting started. He shook the piece of paper and laughed at his classmates. "And that's not all. You fought her in groups of 3, 5, 10, and even 45. Still, you weren't her match. How can you bring yourself to say that it was unfair for you? It was unfair for them. They're a grade lower than you, and they put up with all your unreasonable requests, but you still lost so miserably. Do you have any shame at all? How could you make such requests?" "How were we supposed to know Feng Wu?" Wu Lingyue protested, thinking that she was important enough to speak. But Huashan cut her off. He glared at her. "Wu Lingyue, you're the ridiculous one. If you hadn't thought so highly of yourself and made such a reckless move, all our classmates would never have gotten involved in this farce. You're jealous of Feng Wu, and our class paid for your pride and narrow-mindedness." Wu Lingwei had never been so humiliated before and almost burst into tears. Wu Lingwei's face was covered with tears. Why should I be jealous of her? What has she got? I'm not jealous. She couldn't understand why Huashan would take Feng Wu's side. Huashan smirked. What has she got? She's prettier and smarter than you. She's also more talented and more capable. She's better than you in every possible way. What? You don't want to admit it? Then convince me otherwise. Wu Lingwei was so frustrated that she nearly fainted. She couldn't stop crying. Pointing at Huashan, she shouted like a mad person. Why are you defending her? Are you in love with her? In love with Feng Wu? Huashan was scared out of his wits by that suggestion. Damn it! Those words could get him killed. He knew he couldn't be the only one here who knew about Feng Wu's relationship with the Crown Prince, and if His Royal Highness heard such a rumor. I don't want to die. Huashan glared at Wu Lingwei as though she was his archenemy. Wu Lingwei couldn't understand why Huashan was so angry and scared. Yes, he was genuinely frightened. I'm not in love with Feng Wu, Huashan repeated, as if trying to convince someone else here. I'm not. It's true. Wu Lingwei smirked. Then why are you so protective of her? Are you her errand boy? Errand boy? Huashan's eyes lit up. That's right. I'm her errand boy. Do you have a problem with that? Chapter 26-24 Winner 1. Chapter 26-24 Winner 1. Damn! This time, everyone who heard Huashan was shocked. The students of Class E were speechless. So were the students of Class D. They stood there as if they had been struck by lightning. What a terrifying thing to say! Had Huashan been drugged? Did he know what he was saying? Even the teachers stared at Huashan as if they were seeing a ghost. Huashan, you, Mr. Wang, who had been watching in silence, couldn't help but speak up. Huashan nodded at him. It's true. I admire Feng Wu for her talent and capability, and I would do anything for her, but it has nothing to do with affection. He knew he couldn't be suspected of being in love with Feng Wu, not even slightly. According to Chunxiun, the Crown Prince almost beat young Lord Feng to death, because there was a rumor that the young lord had feelings for Feng Wu. Everyone was speechless. In the end, Huashan scolded his classmates for over an hour, and they each paid 1,000 points. It wasn't that they wanted to, but they had no choice. Huashan said that anyone who refused to pay the points would be kicked out of Class D, which was an effective threat. The students of Class E couldn't believe their good luck. They had earned 1,000 points just like that. They still felt dizzy by the time the event ended. Did we just earn 1,000 points? Why do I feel like I'm dreaming? Pinch me. I need to know if I'm awake. Needless to say, not everyone was as happy as they were. The excited students were all those who had joined the fight, and they were mainly the neutral camp and Feng Wu's fans. As for Feng Wu's anti-fans, they naturally didn't participate in the fight because they were so sure that Feng Wu would lose. As a result, they didn't get to enjoy the reward. Seeing the 1,000 points that each of their classmates received, they were so jealous that they thought they would lose their mind. Many of them surrounded Lu Qi. Lu Qi said, "What? Are you going to hit me now?" One of them snarled, "We wouldn't have refused to join the fight if it hadn't been for you." Lu Qi was rendered speechless. She had genuinely believed that they were going to lose, and anyone in their right mind would have stayed out of it. These people wouldn't have joined the fight even if she hadn't stopped them. However, now that they didn't get the points, they lashed out at her because they needed an outlet. They surrounded Lu Qi and started beating her up. Meanwhile, Feng Wu was surrounded by many people. Their expressions were earnest and excited. Right now, they would lay down their lives for Feng Wu if needed. They followed Feng Wu and left. Feng Wu went back to room 2001. Many students wanted to sneak in to get familiar with Feng Wu. Chowga stopped them all. She knew that Feng Wu didn't like unnecessary socializing, so she blocked the doorway. Xiao Wu fought so many battles and she needs to rest now. I'm sorry, but she's not receiving guests at the moment. Chowga and Ziling stood by the door and wouldn't let anyone in. Not even Sun Jingyu and Pei Si. The other students understood that decision. Chapter 26-25 Winner 2. Chapter 26-25 Winner 2. Chowga had a point. Feng Wu had fought 1,000 students of Class D. She had to be exhausted. The crowd envied Ziling. Chowga came here with Feng Wu, and the two of them had always been close. However, why was Ziling the lucky girl? Why did she get to hang out with Feng Wu? The other students wished they could switch places with her. They then recalled that Sun Jingyu and Pei Si had teamed up with Feng Wu before, so they had to know Feng Wu's preferences. Poor Sun Jingyu and Pei Si. They had never dreamed that they would be warmly welcomed one day because of Feng Wu. Chowga went to talk to Feng Wu after she dismissed the crowd. Xiao Wu, do you know Huashan? Feng Wu shook her head. No, I don't. Chowga said, that's strange. It seemed that he was trying to please you. He wasn't just being kind. He genuinely respects you, and you didn't even fight him. Is he that weak? Ziling's eyes lit up. Huashan is competent. Chowga looked at her. Ziling clenched her fist. Huashan is a level 5 spiritual lord at his peak. He's easily the best student of Class D. He's good enough to go to Class C, but he chose to stay back. Plus, he's so handsome. Over half of the girls in Class E have a crush on him. Wu Lingwei is in love with him, too. Ziling's face glowed when she talked about Huashan. Chowga said, Huashan is much better looking than Lu Xiao. If you like, you can have a go with him. Ziling blushed profusely before Chowga could finish. Don't say that. I'll never be good enough for him. If you say something like that again, I won't talk to you anymore. She ran off after that. Chowga was dumbfounded. Fine. I get that she doesn't want me to say it, but she didn't need to run away, did she? Chowga said impatiently. I was only joking. She doesn't have to like him. Feng Wu shook her head. It was pretty apparent that Ziling liked Huashan as well. However, Feng Wu didn't want to interfere with other people's life decisions, so she didn't say anything. At the entrance of the dormitory, Ziling was stopped before she could rush out. Ziling! Lu Xiao greeted her excitedly and grabbed her hand. I've been waiting for you. Ziling's first reaction was to shake off his hand. Lu Xiao couldn't believe it. Ziling had brushed him off. Ziling! Lu Xiao couldn't believe it. I'm Lu Xiao. Why did you do that? Ziling stared at him and came back to her senses. She looked from Lu Xiao to her hand and was amazed by her own involuntary move. She had lost many nights of sleep over him, but now she could push him away as quickly as that. She put a hand over her heart. It had stopped hurting. Seeing that Ziling had stopped talking, Lu Xiao thought she had changed her mind. So, he approached her with a smile on his face. Ziling, I'm Lu Xiao. I'm the man you love. Chapter 26-26 Winner 3. Chapter 26-26 Winner 3. Out of the corner of her eye, Ziling saw Zhen Yi running toward them. The idea of getting revenge made her want to smile. Brother Xiao. Ziling gave him a half-smile. Lu Xiao nodded excitedly. That's right. I'm your brother Xiao. Ziling said indifferently, but aren't you in love with Zhen Yi now? Lu Xiao sounded agitated. I'm not in love with her. I never was. Zhen Yi was running toward them, and she was shocked when she heard that. Ziling was satisfied when she saw Zhen Yi's twisted expression. She had been feeling depressed for a long time, and her mind was finally clearing up. They were right outside the dormitory, and many students were passing by. More people gathered around to enjoy the scene. Ziling asked, "Did you say that you aren't in love with Zhenya and have never been in love with her?" Lu Xiao nodded without hesitation. Ziling said, "If that's the case, why did you sleep with her? I grew up with you. I was your fiancé." The other students' eyes widened when they heard this. What? That was something they hadn't heard before. Ziling had never tried to hide her relationship with Lu Xiao, but she had been a nobody before today's event, so no one paid any attention. But things were different now. Feng Wu made a name for herself after the battles. As her loyal friends, Chaoga and Ziling attracted much attention as well. Because of that, what Ziling said soon spread. It had never occurred to Lu Xiao that Ziling, who used to be a docile girl, could become so inflexible. However, he had his plan, so he had to put up with her attitude. He would abandon Ziling once he used her to get close to Feng Wu. Lu Xiao had never doubted his charm. After all, both Zhenya and Ziling were infatuated with him. Ziling, that was because Zhenya threw herself at me. I didn't want to, but you know what men are like. She was so willing, and I thought I shouldn't waste that opportunity. I didn't know she could be so sinister. She let you know what was going to happen, and made sure you caught us in the act. Ling, I'm sorry about everything. Can you forgive me? If you say yes, I'll be your brother Xiao forever. Ziling stared at him. It was as if she had never known Lu Xiao before. That was so. She had never dreamed she would see such a shameless side to him. Ziling, seeing the astonished look on Ziling's face, Lu Xiao suddenly had a bad feeling. He was about to walk up to her, when someone jumped at him. Smack! Zhenya slapped him with the back of her hand. Lu Xiao was dumbfounded. Zhenya, you! Zhenya wanted to hit Ziling, but Lu Xiao stopped her. Lu Xiao, did you say I threw myself at you? That's ridiculous. Zhenya bellowed. Yes, I got involved with you when you were still with Ziling, but you fell in love with me. You talked me into sleeping with you, but you're saying that I'm the one who started everything? Lu Xiao, you've crossed the line. Lu Xiao didn't expect that Zhenya would hear him, and he didn't know what to do. I. Chapter 26-27 Winner 4. Chapter 26-27 Winner 4. Ziling smirked. So, you're trying to get back with me when you haven't broken up with Zhenya. Lu Xiao, which one of us do you want to be with? Zhenya also smirked. That's right. Who is it gonna be? Lu Xiao didn't know what to do. Zhenya was connected to Mr. Zhu and Miss Zhen, which gave her a lot of influence in Class E. However, Feng Wu was the one he wanted, and Ziling could make the introduction. At that thought, Lu Xiao turned to Zhenya. Zhenya, I'm really sorry. Zhenya stared at him in disbelief. Why? My dad is the tutor of Class E, and my mother runs the cultivation rooms. I've done you so many favors, but you're abandoning me now. I see. Zhenya pointed at Ziling. You're choosing her now because of Feng Wu, isn't it? Of course, Lu Xiao wasn't going to expose his real intention just yet. He apologized to Zhenya and made it look like he was ready to accept any form of punishment. Huashan and his friends were walking this way. They weren't going to join the onlookers, but Huashan changed his mind when he spotted Ziling. Meanwhile, Zhenya was glaring at Lu Xiao. Why are you afraid of her? My father is the tutor. Yes, Feng Wu is very capable, but once she goes to Class D, she'll forget about Ziling in no time. Lu Xiao gritted his teeth. Feng Wu wouldn't stay in Class E for much longer, and he had to move faster. With the shine of love gone, Zhenya immediately saw through Lu Xiao. You! She stared at Lu Xiao in disbelief. You're going to use Ziling to get to Feng Wu, aren't you? Lu Xiao glared at Zhenya. Zhenya knew Lu Xiao well. Seeing Lu Xiao's reaction, she knew she was right. She said, Have you lost your mind? Do you seriously think Feng Wu will fall for you? As much as Zhenya disliked Feng Wu, she had to admit Feng Wu's capability. Even Hua Shan wanted to follow her. Who did Lu Xiao think he was? Lu Xiao shot her a warning look. Shut up! A few steps away, Hua Shan was shocked by what he just heard. Lu Xiao was trying to get to Feng Wu. Had he lost his mind? Feng Wu was His Royal Highness's girl. Before Hua Shan could move closer, Ziling picked up a rock the size of a basin and smashed it down on Lu Xiao's head. Lu Xiao was caught off guard. His head cracked open, and he passed out on the ground. He didn't even know why Ziling attacked him. Zhenya stared at Ziling in disbelief. How could you? Ziling threw away the rock and dusted off her hands. Xiao Wu would never look at him. And you? Ziling stepped forward and slapped Zhenya in the face. Smack! She used so much force that Zhenya almost flew backward. Ziling snorted. That's for everything you did to me. We're even now. The middle-aged moderator had always been a snobbish woman. So far, she still hadn't heard of Feng Wu's battle, and she still considered Ziling to be some kind of inferior student. Meanwhile, Chapter 26-28 Winner 5 Chapter 26-28 Winner 5 Seeing that Lu Xiao and Zhenya had been attacked, the moderator stepped out and scolded Ziling, "No fighting in the living quarters. Get out now. You're banned from the dormitory for a month." Ziling stared at her. She was reminded of what a sycophant the woman was and how she treated Feng Wu. Ziling smirked. "I have no problem with you helping Zhenya, but do you know how Mr. Luo got injured? It was Feng Wu who had done it. Because of the injury, Mr. Luo was still bedridden." The moderator stared at Ziling and wondered how she knew. It was Feng Wu's doing. Zhenya told the others. Now that Feng Wu had made public her capability, Ziling didn't mind Zhenya telling other people about it. She chimed in, "That's right. Xiao Wu was the one who injured Mr. Luo." All the students were shocked. Feng Wu had injured a teacher. They didn't know she could do that. However, they didn't know what to say when they remembered Feng Wu's performance during the battles. Maybe she really could defeat a teacher. The moderator was taken aback. Feng Wu? As in the girl she had mistreated since the beginning. Ziling smiled. But what you don't know is that Mr. Luo tried to kill Feng Wu first, and there's no point denying it because there were plenty of witnesses. If anyone wants to defend Mr. Luo, they'll lose. Zhenya suddenly had a bad feeling. She was right to feel so. Ziling said, "Why did Mr. Luo want to kill Feng Wu?" "It was because he wanted to avenge a certain woman." Ziling grinned at the moderator. Feng Wu taught that woman a lesson, and that woman complained to her husband, who wouldn't do anything. Therefore, she went to see Mr. Luo. "You've worked here for many years. I think you know what I'm talking about." After hanging out with Feng Wu for a while, Ziling had learned from the master. She was no longer a simple-minded girl. While they were talking, the crowd around them grew larger. The moderator's face darkened. So that was why her husband had been injured. That's bullshit. After calming down a little, she stared at Ziling and wouldn't believe what she had been told. "If you don't believe me, ask Zhenya. She saw the whole thing." Chaoga arrived at that moment and smiled at the moderator. Sun Jingyu and Pei Si saw it too. "They're right there. They can tell you what happened." Both Chaoga and Ziling remembered how snobbish the woman had been, and they wanted to return the favor. It just so happened that the woman had decided to take Zhenya's side today. Sun Jingyu and Pei Si smiled bitterly at each other. They had already picked their side. Sun Jingyu said, "They're telling the truth." Pei Si said, "Yes, I can prove it." The moderator stared at Zhenya. Zhenya's heart raced. Before she could say another word, the moderator went back to her room, grabbed a cleaver, and stormed off. Where was she going? Chapter 26-29 Genius Girl 1. Chapter 26-29 Genius Girl 1. Needless to say, she was going to cause some trouble for Miss Jin. Poor Miss Jin. She had no idea that a war was coming her way. Zhenya glared at Chaoga and Ziling, finding them extremely annoying. Lu Xiao was alarmed because things weren't turning out the way he had expected. Where was the obedient Ziling, he remembered. Ziling, are you really going to turn your back on Brother Xiao? You're so heartless. Chaoga was amused. She couldn't understand why Ziling would fall for such a pretentious man in the first place. She would be really disappointed if Ziling forgave him. Luckily, Ziling didn't let her down. She sneered at Lu Xiao. You hooked up with Zhenya when you were still my boyfriend, and you're accusing me of abandoning you now. I've never met anyone as shameless as you. Ziling's words felt like a slap to Lu Xiao's face. He was mortified. Overwhelmed by frustration, Lu Xiao snapped at Ziling. You were engaged to me once. If you don't marry me, you won't find a husband. You'll be alone for the rest of your life. He was delighted with what he said. He didn't know that someone else was paying close attention to Ziling with sparkling eyes. It was none other than Huashan himself. He pushed through the crowd and went to Ziling's side. Huashan? That's Huashan, the top student of Class D. I heard he's good enough to go to Class C, but he chose to stay in Class D. Huashan is so handsome. He's a wealthy heir. The Hua family is a huge clan. Many girls were talking about Huashan in affectionate tones. But Huashan only wanted Ziling. He looked into her eyes and asked, Ziling, will you be my girlfriend? What? Those words shocked everyone. Ziling couldn't look Huashan in the eye. She remembered how aggressive she had been and felt too abashed to face him. She was about to run off when he asked that question. Hearing what he said, even her hands turned pink. She felt so shy that she gave Huashan another look before dashing off. Huashan was dumbfounded, and he asked Chaoga, was that a yes? Chaoga said, take a wild guess. Huashan didn't think he should go see Fengwu now, but he still asked Chaoga to give Fengwu his best wishes. Chaoga liked Huashan because he had shown Fengwu respect. By the way, Huashan added before he left, the tutors are having a meeting to discuss if they should put Miss Fengwu in Class D or Class C. If Miss Fengwu has any preferences, please let me know in advance. I can pull some strings. Chaoga delivered the message to Fengwu. Meanwhile, a meeting was taking place, just like Huashan said. The head of the academy was absent as usual, and the meeting was led by two deputies. Zhou Qingluan had replaced Zishuan. Gong Sun Mu had been told what was going on, and he took Fengwu's side. The other participants of the meeting included Mr. Zhu of Class E, Mr. Wang of Class D, Mr. Yin of Class C, and the tutors of Classes A and B. Chapter 26-30 Genius Girl 2. Chapter 26-30 Genius Girl 2. Fengwu is an interesting girl. Mr. Yin of Class C smiled at Gong Sun Mu. I didn't know she could do that, defeating all of Class D on her own. Mr. Wang of Class D didn't like the sound of that. He rolled his eyes at Mr. Yin and said, if you don't know what to say, you can keep your mouth shut. Mr. Yin laughed. Am I wrong? So many people saw it. You can't deny what happened, Mr. Wang. Mr. Wang was furious. As if being humiliated in front of the students wasn't enough, he was being humiliated in front of the deputies as well. Of course Mr. Wang was angry. By the way, I heard that even Mr. Wang's saber couldn't stop Fengwu, Mr. Yin added. He and Mr. Wang had always had grudges against each other, and he wouldn't miss this opportunity. Seeing that Mr. Wang was going to lose his temper, Gong Sun Mu interjected, in that case, where do you think Fengwu should be? In Class E, Class D, or Class C? Mr. Yin said. Judging by her capability, of course, Feng Wu should be in Class C with us. All the students in Class D put together couldn't do anything. Needless to say, Mr. Wang didn't want to lose Feng Wu. He and Feng Wu were archenemies now. If Feng Wu went to Class C, she would be out of his reach forever. Thus, he smirked. That was because Huashan didn't take part in the fight. Feng Wu wouldn't have been his match. Mr. Yin laughed so hard that he was almost in tears. Wang, you're just fooling yourself. No one else will believe you. Didn't you see Huashan's attitude toward Feng Wu? He was so humble. Don't you know why? Mr. Wang snorted. Boys are always humble around pretty girls. What's wrong with that? Yin, I bet you're just as humble when you're with your wife. Mr. Yin glanced at Mr. Wang. Are you saying that Huashan showed Feng Wu respect because he has feelings for her? Mr. Wang asked. Can there be another reason? Mr. Yin shook his head. If you ask me, Feng Wu is too good for Huashan. Even if he's fond of Feng Wu, his feelings would be wasted. He's not good enough for her. Mr. Wang looked like he was going to explode. You're making things up now. That's bullshit. Mr. Yin turned to Gong Sun Mu. Class C will take Feng Wu. Mr. Wang also turned to Gong Sun Mu. Feng Wu belongs in Class D. The two tutors were at a stalemate. Zhuo Qingluan frowned and seemed impatient. Miss Qingluan, what do you think? Gong Sun Mu tossed the question to Zhuo Qingluan. What do I think? Zhuo Qingluan smirked inwardly. She thought Feng Wu was the biggest hypocrite. Feng Wu wasn't much inferior to her. She was at least a level 6 or level 7 spiritual lord, but she started in Class E. It was such an easy start, so she managed to shock so many people with the insignificant achievement of defeating Class D. Zhuo Qingluan was even more furious about Feng Wu. She's a petty student from Class E. Do you seriously think she's worth this meeting? Everyone was surprised. A petty Class E student. Mr. Yin said. She might have been a petty student before, but not anymore. Chapter 26:31 Genius Girl 3. Chapter 26:31 Genius Girl 3. She's going to be an important member of the War Academy. Miss Zhuo, do you hold something against her? Why? Did Feng Wu offend you in some way? Zhuo Qingluan almost choked on her own spit. She could continue harping on that subject since Feng Wu had done countless things to offend her. She glanced at Mr. Yin. What do you think? Zhuo Qingluan no longer tried to maintain the facade of a sacred lady. It was stopping her from doing many things she wanted to do. Therefore, she was implicitly telling the tutors that she didn't like Feng Wu, so they could torture her however they wanted. Unfortunately, she had underestimated the tutors. At first, people supported her because of the Crown Prince. However, they changed their minds as time went by. They learned what happened in the imperial capital. The people there were still talking about the birthday fireworks. Hence, Zhuo Qingluan shouldn't have assumed that news of the imperial capital could be kept out of the academy. The tutors weren't stupid. Classes A and B hadn't carried out an investigation because they weren't involved. However, Mr. Yin and Mr. Zhu had been outside recently. They knew which girl the Crown Prince had set off the fireworks for. June Linyuan the Sovereign descends to the world, and Feng Wu the Phoenix soars above the land. What a magnificent statement! When the Crown Prince was taken out of the equation, Zhuo Qingluan wasn't much different from everyone else. Mr. Yin smiled when he saw that Zhuo Qingluan wouldn't back down. I think Feng Wu is excellent. Zhuo Qingluan's face paled. How foolish was Mr. Yin. She gave so many hints, but he was still singing Feng Wu's praises. Did he have a death wish? She glared at him. Mr. Yin, are you saying you find Feng Wu an excellent student? Mr. Yin smiled. It's like what Huashan said. Xiao Wu is good-looking, talented, capable and kind. I can't say a bad thing about her. I think she will be the most popular girl in the War Academy. Zhuo Qingluan was furious. She clenched her fists and wanted to kill Mr. Yin when no one was looking. Just then, Gongsun Mu suggested, "In that case, why don't we let Feng Wu choose? She'll go to whichever class she wants to." Mr. Yin nodded with a smile. Mr. Wang didn't like the idea, but he couldn't think of an excuse to suggest otherwise. Mr. Zhu smiled bitterly. Feng Wu. She had only just joined the War Academy, and she was already going to Class C. But he knew perfectly well that with Feng Wu's capability, Class C wouldn't keep her for long either. Soon, Feng Wu arrived. She saw the 7 people sitting behind a row of desks, as if they were going to interview her. "Please take a seat." Gongsun Mu had a good impression of Feng Wu and smiled at her. A single chair was placed opposite the desk. Feng Wu sensed hostility. When she followed the gaze, she saw that it was Zhuo Qingluan. She gave Zhuo Qingluan a meaningful smile. Zhuo Qingluan remained unaffected, as if Feng Wu's arrival didn't change anything, when in fact. Chapter 2632 Genius Girl 4. Chapter 2632 Genius Girl 4. Every time Zhuo Qingluan saw Feng Wu, she wanted to eat her alive. Feng Wu sensed more hostility and found that Mr. Wang was also glaring at her. She was amazed. "Mr. Wang, you're here. I see you're fine. I was worried." Mr. Wang asked angrily, "What can be wrong with me?" Feng Wu said, "So many of your students lost the fight yesterday. I heard you vomited 3 liters of blood and would need months to recover. I didn't expect to see you so soon." Mr. Wang was furious. Yes, he had vomited blood the day before out of frustration, but it was only 3 mouthfuls. It was never that serious. He cursed Feng Wu under his breath. However, he couldn't tell the others that it was only 3 mouthfuls. If he admitted that he had vomited any blood, it would make him seem incredibly petty. He took several deep breaths as he fought back his rage. He then gave Feng Wu a warning look. "Enough with the banter. You're here today because we want to hear your opinion." Feng Wu had given Mr. Wang a blow head-on at the very beginning, but Mr. Wang didn't dare cross the line. Feng Wu had total control over the situation. Mr. Yin was amazed. What an outstanding girl! They were the chief tutors of the War Academy. Any other student summoned here today would be so nervous about being in the same room with them. However, Feng Wu didn't seem nervous at all and even took the initiative to attack. She also hit her target on her first try and successfully intimidated Mr. Wang. It was so interesting to watch. He now understood why the Crown Prince cared so much for her. Zhuo Qingluan took a deep breath and glanced at Mr. Wang. She found the man too stupid to be helpful. Seeing that Mr. Yin was singing Feng Wu's praises, she made a mental note that she would get her revenge one day. Since Mr. Yin already knew what cards Zhuo Qingluan had, he was no longer afraid of her. Instead, he warmly welcomed Feng Wu and introduced her to all the tutors. Feng Wu remembered all their names. She smiled at Mr. Yin for his kindness. Mr. Yin was thrilled. At such a young age, the girl was already familiar with the ways of the world. How wonderful! He smiled at her. Here's the thing. Since you've defeated virtually every student in Class D, the tutors of the Academy feel that it would be a waste of your talent to keep you in Class E. Mr. Wang doesn't think you're Huashan's match, so he wants to keep you in Class D. However, I think you'll be an outstanding student even in Class C, and I would like you to join us. What do you think, Mr. Yin smiled at Feng Wu. Skip a school year. Feng Wu was very familiar with skipping grades. She had done it before. Seeing the eager look in everyone's eyes, Feng Wu asked, Are those the only two options I have? What? Were these two options not enough? Mr. Yin sounded sorry when he said, Miss Feng Wu, you can stay in Class E if you insist. Chapter 2633 Skip Grades 1. Chapter 2633 Skip Grades 1. What? Were these two options not enough? Mr. Yin sounded sorry when he said, Miss Feng Wu, you can stay in Class E if you insist. Feng Wu asked, Can I graduate directly? Mr. Yin spat out the tea in his mouth. Even Mr. Yang of Class B and Mr. Duan of Class A were shocked. At first, they appreciated Feng Wu's talent and wanted to observe her, but they didn't think so highly of her when they saw how proud she was. Zhuo Qingluan was glad to see that Feng Wu didn't make a good impression on the tutors. Graduate directly? Gongsun Mu found the suggestion both annoying and hilarious. His Majesty had given him instructions that he should take good care of Feng Wu so that no one would pick on her. Gongsun Mu also needed to ensure that no boys would approach Feng Wu. By the sound of it, the Emperor considered Feng Wu his future daughter-in-law. Old Mr. Gongsun smiled bitterly. You can't skip so many grades. Not even His Majesty himself would make that request. Feng Wu was disappointed. Is that so? I'll go to Class A then. Mr. Yin expected Feng Wu to aim for something lower, but he was shocked when he heard that the girl still wanted something that seemed beyond her reach. Feng Wu, Mr. Yin said solemnly, Yes, you're very talented, but the academy has rules. You can't skip too many grades. 3 at a time is the most you can do. Feng Wu asked, So, are you saying that I can go to Class B? Mr. Yin nodded. Yes, Class B. Feng Wu frowned a little. That's a bit slow for me, but I guess I can live with it. I'll take Class B then. Mr. Yin was speechless. What did she mean by, I can live with it? Mr. Yang of Class B opened his eyes wide. Class B, he shook his head. No, I won't have her. Zhuo Qingluan smirked. She was the deputy head of this academy, but Feng Wu had been rejected by the tutor of Class B. Feng Wu would never be able to catch up with her. She believed it was fate. Feng Wu looked at Gongsun Mu. Can he do that? Mr. Gongsun smiled wryly. That depends on your own capability. If you can defeat a student from Class B, you'll have a chance to enter the class. Feng Wu frowned a little. What do you mean by, I'll have a chance? Mr. Yang was rigorous in both his personality and his teaching. He didn't like students skipping grades, especially when it was a genius. He frowned at Feng Wu. If you can defeat the weakest student of Class B, you'll fulfill the minimum requirement for joining the class. When that happens, the tutors will have a vote to decide if you can enter Class B. Feng Wu nodded. What if I can defeat the top student of Class B? Mr. Yang was once again surprised by Feng Wu. He had taught many students, but he had never met anyone so shameless. Almost all the tutors felt the same. The girl was as pretty as she was shameless. Chapter 2634 Skip Grades 2. Chapter 2634 Skip Grades 2. What did you say? Mr. Yang stared at Feng Wu. He didn't like opinionated students, even if they were geniuses. What if I can beat the top student of Class B? Feng Wu didn't care what other people thought of her. She smiled the entire time. Her eyes were as bright as stars, and she was as pretty as a picture. The other tutors thought, what a shame. She's so wonderful, but she's too arrogant. Mr. Yang snorted. You'll be the top student of Class B if you can beat Shan Jingfei. Almost everyone in the academy knew who Shan Jingfei was. She was a student of Class B, but she was also the most popular girl in the War Academy. Wu Lingyue was nothing in comparison. Feng Wu nodded. I'll fight her then. Mr. Yin liked how forthright she was. She was a girl of action, but others might take it for arrogance. He tried to persuade her otherwise. Shan Jingfei is the top student of Class B. She's even good enough to go to Class A. Feng Wu nodded. Yup, Mr. Yin said. Why don't we start from the last student on the billboard? Feng Wu said, That's all right. Shan Jingfei will do. Mr. Yin shrugged at Mr. Yang. He had tried, but she wouldn't listen. Mr. Yang was usually a mild-tempered man, but he was frustrated by Feng Wu's statement. Suit yourself then. You'll fight Shan Jingfei. Feng Wu was talented, but one needed time to train their skills. Her good looks could only get her so far. Mr. Yang smirked and gave the order. The air felt stuffy as they waited for Shan Jingfei to arrive. No one dared to break the silence. Mr. Zhu stared at his hands on the table and was filled with emotions. Mr. Wang smirked. This presumptuous girl would be humiliated. Mr. Yin was worried for Feng Wu but couldn't do anything. Mr. Yang seemed displeased. Mr. Duan was from Class A. He decided that it was none of his business. Mr. Gongsun shook his head, and Zhuo Qingluan had a sarcastic look on her face. Anyone else would be scared out of their wits under the pressure of all the attention, but Feng Wu only stood there with her hands behind her back. She was even smiling, as if nothing in the world could bother her. Just then, they heard approaching footsteps. The silence was broken. Shan Jingfei walked in. When she saw all the tutors and school heads, she couldn't help but feel nervous. Although she was used to being the center of attention, she still greeted all the teachers flusteredly. The teachers smiled bitterly. That was how a regular student should react. Feng Wu was too calm. Mr. Yang asked Jingfei, I assume you're currently the top student on the billboard. Is that correct? Under Zhuo Qingluan's gaze, Shan Jingfei found it hard to breathe. She said in a low voice, Yes. Mr. Yang nodded. You'll fight Feng Wu today. Feng Wu? Shan Jingfei knew that name. On her way here, she had heard other students say that once Feng Wu rose to Class B, she herself wouldn't be the most popular girl anymore. Shan Jingfei had always assumed an otherworldly manner, as if she didn't care about fame. In fact, she cared very much. Comment 2 comments vote send GIF. Chapter 2634, Skip Grades 2. What did you say, Mr. Yang stared at Feng Wu. He didn't like opinionated students, even if they were geniuses. What if I can beat the top student of Class B? Feng Wu didn't care what other people thought of her. She smiled the entire time. Her eyes were as bright as stars, and she was as pretty as a picture. The other tutors thought, what a shame. She's so wonderful, but she's too arrogant. Mr. Yang snorted. You'll be the top student of Class B if you can beat Shan Jingfei. Almost everyone in the academy knew who Shan Jingfei was. She was a student of Class B, but she was also the most popular girl in the War Academy. Wu Lingyue was nothing in comparison. Feng Wu nodded. I'll fight her then. Mr. Yin liked how forthright she was. She was a girl of action, but others might take it for arrogance. He tried to persuade her otherwise. Shan Jingfei is the top student of Class B. She's even good enough to go to Class A. Feng Wu nodded. Yup, Mr. Yin said. Why don't we start from the last student on the billboard? Feng Wu said, That's all right. Shan Jingfei will do. Mr. Yin shrugged at Mr. Yang. He had tried, but she wouldn't listen. Mr. Yang was usually a mild-tempered man, but he was frustrated by Feng Wu's statement. Suit yourself then. You'll fight Shan Jingfei. Feng Wu was talented, but one needed time to train their skills. Her good looks could only get her so far. Mr. Yang smirked and gave the order. The air felt stuffy as they waited for Shan Jingfei to arrive. No one dared to break the silence. Mr. Zhu stared at his hands on the table and was filled with emotions. Mr. Wang smirked. This presumptuous girl would be humiliated. Mr. Yin was worried for Feng Wu but couldn't do anything. Mr. Yang seemed displeased. Mr. Duan was from Class A. He decided that it was none of his business. Mr. Gongsun shook his head, and Zhuo Qingluan had a sarcastic look on her face. Anyone else would be scared out of their wits under the pressure of all the attention, but Feng Wu only stood there with her hands behind her back. She was even smiling, as if nothing in the world could bother her. Just then, they heard approaching footsteps. The silence was broken. Shan Jingfei walked in. When she saw all the tutors and school heads, she couldn't help but feel nervous. Although she was used to being the center of attention, she still greeted all the teachers flusteredly. The teachers smiled bitterly. That was how a regular student should react. Feng Wu was too calm. Mr. Yang asked Jingfei, I assume you're currently the top student on the billboard. Is that correct? Under Zhuo Qingluan's gaze, Shan Jingfei found it hard to breathe. She said in a low voice, Yes. Mr. Yang nodded. You'll fight Feng Wu today. Feng Wu? Shan Jingfei knew that name. On her way here, she had heard other students say that once Feng Wu rose to Class B, she herself wouldn't be the most popular girl anymore. Shan Jingfei had always assumed an otherworldly manner, as if she didn't care about fame. In fact, she cared very much. Chapter 2635 Skip Grades 3. Chapter 2635 Skip Grades 3. Shan Jingfei smirked. She wanted to see how beautiful this Feng Wu could be. She couldn't possibly be more beautiful than Miss Qingluan. She turned around. Her pupils contracted when she saw Feng Wu's face. She was astonished. What a beautiful girl! Her red dress almost seemed like it was on fire. Her bright and shiny eyes reminded one of a crisp autumn day. She was slender, graceful, and charming. Her skin was unbelievably smooth, and she looked like someone who didn't belong to this world. Expressions to describe a beautiful woman popped into Shan Jingfei's head. They were the words the boys used with her, but now, she felt so common when she compared herself with Feng Wu. Zhuo Qingluan was beautiful, but Feng Wu easily outshone her. That thought appeased Shan Jingfei a little. If she had seen Feng Wu on the first day of school, she wouldn't be so surprised today. However, she hadn't looked back that day, so she had missed Feng Wu and hadn't been amazed by her beauty, until now. When Shan Jingfei finally woke up from her astonishment, there was jealousy in her eyes. Mr. Yang said, You can start now. Mr. Yin said, Don't go too far. Please don't hurt Miss Feng Wu. Mr. Yang rolled his eyes at Mr. Yin. We can't promise that in a battle. You never know where they will get hit. Mr. Yin wanted to tell Mr. Yang that he was trying to help all of them. He had been told that Feng Wu was the crown prince's favorite. With that, Mr. Yin said, Isn't Shan Jingfei the top student of Class B? She must be so much more capable. I'm sure she has perfect control over the force she'll use. Please don't harm Feng Wu. Mr. Yang didn't say anything else. Shan Jingfei nodded, but she was smirking inwardly. They should thank me for my kindness if I don't kill her now. Not harm Feng Wu? Mr. Yin is as hypocritical as ever. At that thought, she turned to Feng Wu and said sarcastically, Feng Wu, to show Mr. Yin some respect, I'll let you make the first move. I'll start fighting after you make 3 moves. Feng Wu shook her head. That won't be necessary. Shan Jingfei smirked inwardly, but she still said, Don't blame me if I defeat you within 3 moves. She struck out immediately after that. She didn't spare any effort. She knew that if Feng Wu managed to get in more than 3 strikes, there was a big chance of her getting into Class B. If that happened, Shan Jingfei probably wouldn't be the most popular girl in the War Academy anymore. It was a formidable strike. Shang Jingfei wasn't going to give Feng Wu any chance. The tutors saw through her plan right away and believed that Feng Wu was doomed. Feng Wu won't withstand this strike, Mr. Yang said calmly. It's an extraordinary move. Not only is Shan Jingfei exerting all her power, she's also made some clever modifications. Even a Class A student would struggle to avoid it. Mr. Yin saw it too and looked worried. However, Shan Jingfei might have a good plan, but no one could guarantee that things would turn out the way she wanted. She was aiming at Feng Wu's heart. The strike would crush Feng Wu's heart and kill her instantly. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.